Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 220 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours. I think the show's going to be a couple hours. We had to really work for this one, folks. For the next hour and a half, couple hours maybe, we'll swing you around the world of video games. There was some big stuff happening this week, just not a ton of it. I want to apologize to the people who are waiting on the stream for the show to start. Matt Kyle, who is my co-host, had some computer issues. What's up, Matt?
Hey. Yeah, I don't know what that was. I guess it needed a restart, but it took like 10 minutes. So, yeah. And then when it came back up, it was all black screen. I was like, what's going on? It opened all my Apple Arcade games.
What?
Like all the Apple Arcade games I have downloaded, like they were all open.
That's weird.
So I'm like, really okay, so I had to quit all those out before I could get through this because that's a lot of memory.
Yep. But we're here and we're ready for 220. We got Mitch Sikorsky as TriCaster TD. What's going on, Mitch?
Nothing much. We shut down again.
Yeah. So I think the whole United States, I think it needs to shut down. Like we just need to hit the reset button and start over. We need to look at what the other countries did whose lives are now back to normal and I'm very jealous of. And we need to replicate it. And we just need to bite the bullet for a couple months here and get back to life as normal. I mean, I don't know what other option there is other than to just let the coronavirus completely destroy America. So, yeah, LA's all locked down again. We're right back to where we were in like March and April. It's really, really discouraging. I've had it, man. I've had it with this. But if we can just start over and just do the things that we're supposed to do the way we're supposed to do them, in a couple months, we can get this under control and we can go back to our lives. This is crazy.
Or if people just wore masks outside.
Yeah. I mean, just do what you're told. There's a reason.
Because remember, Japan has
we go on and on.
Much huger density than we have, and they haven't had anything close to even one state's death toll. And case toll, and that's because they wear masks everywhere. It's all
this also really hurts Mitch's chances of finding a job here. It just sucks.
Yeah, it came to LA in a very bad, inadvertent time.
Yeah, I really feel for him, man. But anyway, we do have a great show for you guys, and I know that for a lot of you, this is kind of your respite away from reality. I try not to dip into that stuff too much because I look at GameFace the same way. On a recent episode of Ask Shane Anything, I mentioned how GameFace is like my refuge for a few hours every week, where I forget about everything else except for games and Matt and Mitch. And I know that you guys look to this show for that. So we try to stay away from that stuff. Let's talk about some video games. First, we're going to talk about our poll of the week from last week. If you remember, on episode 219, we talked about gamer toxicity. And so I polled you guys to see what you guys thought about it after hearing our crew discuss it. The poll basically was, what's your take on gamer toxicity? And there were 4 options. There was really, there's nothing that can be done. There's no easy answer, but we need to commit to change. I just ignore them. And then the final option was, it's no big deal. Winning in a landslide was, there's no easy answer, but we need to commit to change. 62% of respondents chose that option, and I tend to agree. But I think what happens is what happened with our discussion last week, which was, okay, we agree that we need to do something, but what is it? Matt, do you think we need like some kind of I hate to say it, like an organization to like work on something like this? Because I can't do it. I don't have the bandwidth to make this kind of change.
I mean, the bandwidth has to come from people who care about it and call it out and, correct the behavior in person, even better than online. It's kind of the old, people make fun of it because it's the Orwell connection, I guess. But that see something, say something thing. You see somebody being a dick, say something about it. Don't leave it to the. Don't leave it to the victim.
Life.
Don't leave it to the victim.
For better or worse.
Don't leave it to the victim to have to take care of it themselves necessarily.
Yeah.
And there's ways to de-escalate that are not direct confrontation. Like you can always just sort of put yourself between someone virtually or physically and the other person. But like, and you liberally use block features on social media. Like that's what
because they are looking for attention. Let's just be honest. I mean, that's what a troll wants more than anything is for people to respond and acknowledge that they exist. Yeah,
I just remember when trolling meant like posting a bad take about a movie on a board. It wasn't death threats and swatting and all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, I don't know what else you can do in form an organization. I mean, I guess you could form like some kind of like industry think tank to come up with solutions, but I don't know if the people in the industry are the people to come up with those solutions. I think you want sociologists and tech experts that can find ways to kind of track this stuff and de-anonymize the people that are doing it. Because sometimes it works. Like the one example last week where one person who was going after the voice actress got called out and actually came back and apologized because they had a moment of clarity, right. I guess.
Yeah.
So, it's not going to solve everything.
Believe it or not, people can change.
Yeah, it's not going to solve everything, and there's always going to be dipshits out there doing stuff like that. But like you can at least make it.
We're used to that. That's but you can
at least make it clear. You can at least make it clear that like it's not acceptable.
Yeah,
or that everyone else sees you do it and are not okay with it because that's part of it. They are looking for a reaction, but they're also looking for a positive reaction in the sense of like reacting the way they want you to react. Right on, man. Yeah, as opposed to or like people being the victim being negatively impacted, but a bunch of people standing around going like, a bully isn't really going to do much even in a schoolyard if everyone's standing around going like, stop that, what are you doing, dude, come on, that's not cool. Like that's
there's also power in numbers. I mean,
peer pressure works.
A cliche for a reason. And then the next most popular response was just ignore them, and I'm not surprised by that either. I think a lot of people are like me, they're just completely fed up with it. And maybe I want to fight a little bit more, but they're just like, you know what? I'm just not going to engage in it. I get that. Some people go online, they don't want to deal with drama. I totally get it. And then the final 12% was split between people who really have just completely checked out. 6% for nothing can be done. They've just given up completely. And then 6%, it's no big deal.
Sorry, I answered nothing could be done. So I kind of want to explain my answer a bit since you kind of stated as I was giving up. I don't see it as that. I see it as you have to change people, and some people unfortunately cannot be changed. And this is an individual type thing, and there's no committee you could form to force someone to change their mind on how they view either a person, a certain subject, or how to go about their frustration. And so
I don't agree with that at all. I absolutely believe people can change. I've seen it with my own two eyes throughout my life over and over again. People change.
I don't think
you can't turn. Let's say that I'll say this: you're not going to turn the Grand Wizard of the KKK into the head of Black Lives Matter.
But that's my point.
But you can soften him to a point where he is more accepting of other people and other ideas. You absolutely can.
I don't think that. I think that some people can change, absolutely, but I don't think everybody is changeable.
I didn't say that.
But that's my answer. That's what I mean. Is in the form of the question, I'm seeing it as, can the toxicity go away entirely? No, I don't think it ever could go away entirely.
Yeah, that's kind of what Matt was saying with like the 5% or whatever.
Right. Can we do things to improve it? Absolutely. But is it going to go away forever?
Well, never. Well, that is something to be done, though.
Yeah, that's
to improve it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone expects toxic people to go away forever. Like that's just not
that would be awesome, but
that's not the state of humanity. That's not in our nature.
Unfortunately,
I guess that's how I viewed the question. So
interesting.
So then that's how it formed my
your
answer.
Idealistic view. You're like, let's just wipe them all out. Okay, so we do have our next poll of the week up, and it relates to what I think has turned into a big battleground for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and that's backwards compatibility. It has become this huge story, and I'm not 100% sure why, because it's been a thing for a long time. I think maybe because it is just this one thing where there is kind of a line drawn in the sand, and one company has one perspective on it, and the other one has another. Maybe the thing is, it's one of the few differentiators, really, other than the software. But anyway, our poll is basically, how important is backwards compatibility to you? It's in the header at sifted.net right now. Get on over there, make your voice heard. Also leave some comments below the poll. Some of the comments, unfortunately, I wanted to get some together for this week, but maybe for next week. Some of the comments in our polls are amazing. You guys are really being thoughtful and taking time and writing some great stuff. So I'm going to start plucking a couple of those every week and reading them on GameFace. So feel free to get in there, share your take, and we'll get to that poll on next week's show. One final piece of housekeeping before we get on to the show proper. Folks who watch GameFace or Pactor Factor or any of our content on YouTube, we have just launched YouTube memberships. You're now able to subscribe to our content and get it day and date with our patrons and our subscribers on sifted.net and never leave YouTube. So we are wired into YouTube's monetary system now. You can subscribe to our channel there. For $3.99 a month, you get Pactor Factor and GameFace. And then for an extra $1 a month, you get everything, all our content. And again, you get it day and date with our patrons and anyone who subscribes on sifted.net. Now, you may ask, why is it a little bit more to just get GameFace and Pactor Factor? That's because YouTube takes a huge chunk of the money from that. They take 30%. So if you give us that $3.99, we lose like $1.30 or $1.40 from that sale. So that's why the pricing's a little bit different. But most folks on YouTube do just watch GameFace and Pactor Factor. And so for $4 a month, you can stay on YouTube and you can get all our content. You'll get this episode tomorrow on YouTube if you're a member there. And we've already got a pretty good number, actually. I've been pleasantly surprised by how many people have joined there already. Some people just like to stay on YouTube, and I totally get that. And so I'm glad that we're able to offer this to you guys. And with that, let's get on with the show. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Ready to get away from it all without losing all the comforts of home? DeShazer Ryan Realty has a once-in-a-lifetime 200-acre estate for sale in Libby, Montana that gives new meaning to the phrase roughing it. This eye-popping main lake house on this sprawling estate has 4 bedrooms and bathrooms, phone, and internet. There are also separate guest and caretaker houses. It's the first time this property has ever been for sale, so don't let the chance to buy a slice of outdoor heaven pass by. It can be yours for $3.4 million. If you're interested, no matter where you live, contact Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643 or deshazermt@gmail.com. He can also connect you with local realtors who can help you with your specific needs. If you want to see more, head on over to www.snowshoeranchmt.com. That's snowshoeranchmt.com.
Man, I wish I was there for my 4th of July. That would be beautiful.
I probably would have burned the whole wilderness down with fireworks or whatever. But a big thanks to DeShazer Ryan Realty for sponsoring the show. Sponsorships are huge for us. They make a big, big difference. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. Why can't I talk today? What's going on? Patreon.com/sifted. And there's a tier there for sponsorship if you're interested in getting involved with our business. So with that, it's time for GameFace 2020. 220. What is going on with me today? I'm losing my mind. It's time for 2020 proper. We're going to kick things off with the biggest thing that happened this week. It was Ubisoft Forward 2020. Now, leading up to this, and before this happened, I, at least personally, was under the impression that this was Ubisoft's big blowout, and that was all we're getting for the year. It was just like its big E3 press conference. We probably weren't going to hear anything from Ubisoft until next year at some point. But as it turns out, these Forward events are actually Ubisoft's Nintendo Direct. So as soon as this ended, Ubisoft announced that there will be another one before the end of the year. So I honestly wish I had known that before I watched it, because my attitude towards what happened on Sunday changed drastically once I heard that news. But I was watching it live and it ended and I was like, what the hell was that? Where are all the games? And honestly, if you really break it down, there were 3 games in Ubisoft Forward. And we're going to talk about all 3 of them, because one thing is that they were really blown out. And in some cases, big changes being made. And I think not the least of which is the first game that we're going to talk about, and that is Watch Dogs Legion.
I think you just missed the dance numbers.
My dancing panda wasn't there. That was a depressing moment.
Did you guys miss any of that stuff, actually? I mean, because Ubisoft is one of those press conferences that, you know, it gets a lot of flack from gamers, but it is like memorable, at least. There's stuff in there that other press conferences don't do. Did you guys miss any of it?
I mean, I missed Pactor's reactions to it. Yeah. Not actually having to see it. No.
I did. I think they bring the fun. I think they bring a different energy compared to the different conferences. And so they're always one that I'm willing to like see how crazy they're going to go.
Yeah, they did laser tag in the crowd the one year. They always have the big dance numbers for Just Dance where they get out in the crowd and dance. And most people, if you're at those things, they get really annoyed by them. Like if you're sitting around the press, all you hear is just grumbling and moans while that stuff is going on. But, you know, it does make for pretty good television. It's certainly something that can appeal to the casuals and maybe snare them in so that they watch maybe at least a little bit of what is traditionally a pretty hardcore type press presentation. But they kick things off with the only game where a lot of information hadn't been spoiled before the event, because the other two big games, Far Cry, the trailer for that leaked the day before, kind of. It was like a foreign language version, but we could see it when we knew it was real. And then, of course, we talked last week for like 30 minutes about Assassin's Creed because of a gameplay leak. So Watch Dogs Legion was only one of the three that we weren't completely spoiled on. And really, I guess the big revelation is that they've completely done away with the classes that they had talked about previously. And now there are no classes. And it really is just a free-for-all, become anyone you want game. I am surprised because I thought if there were any big changes coming to that game, that they would dial it back and make it less ambitious. But it sounds to me like what they've done with this has actually made it more ambitious, and it's coming October 29th. Matt, were you surprised?
No, but only because I know some people who work on it.
Yeah, okay.
But like, not that they've told me when it comes out or anything, but I knew that they were kind of like
reworking.
There was sort of an attitude of like, yeah, we're working really hard because we think it can be more like what we think it can be, I guess is the way to put it. Like, okay. You're right. It's not less ambitious. It's like, they're like, why don't we just like go for it? And it seems like that's what's happening here.
And it's coming out way sooner than I thought. Again, like I thought to hit that type of a release date and not go into fiscal early 2021. I thought they would have to dial it back, but as it turns out, they've dove in head first, and it's still coming pretty soon.
I mean, they've been working on this game since before the second game came out, and they've reinvented it a couple of times, I think. But like, it's been a while. Also, like I was when they said October 29th, my first thought was like, okay, well then when's Valhalla coming out?
Right.
And we'll get to that later, but like the distance, it's 3 weeks between these two games. And like that was surprising to me until I thought of something. So which I think I said to you in text after the presentation.
Yeah, share it.
So like my theory is that especially because they had Spencer come on and talk about some stuff, and they talked about Assassin's Creed a little bit in that. Mm-hmm. My guess is that Watch Dogs has a tie-in with PS5, and Assassin's Creed has a tie-in with Xbox Series X, and Watch Dogs Legion is on October 29th because that's when the PS5 comes out, and Assassin's Creed is on November 17th because that's when Series X comes out.
It's very possible.
And I think that's also why Cyberpunk went to November 19th, because it puts it in or maybe it's a couple days before it launches, and 19th is the launch date of the console. Like that happens sometimes. Games come out before the launch. I remember buying Dreamcast games a week before the system was out.
Yeah, they went on sale before the actual console went on sale.
So like that's my pet theory. I don't have any inside info on that, but like I think that's what's happening. I think these are launch titles, and that's why you're launching two super huge open world major AAA games 3 weeks away from each other from the same company. Like that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I mean, also there is some evidence to back up your idea. I mean, those two games have already been tagged kind of with those platforms. Mm-hmm. So
that's kind of where I'm coming from.
There's like marketing deals in place for those games with those platforms. So it makes perfect sense.
They also are tied via the free upgrade. So like if you upgrade from the last gen, this gen version to next gen, it's free for both consoles.
Yep.
Which is exactly what I've been saying for like a year. Yeah. So like that's the only move that makes sense. And it seems like Sony got to that a little late, maybe because that's what Microsoft already decided to do. But so we might be seeing the reverse of the previous generation, where Microsoft tried to do a thing early and everyone hated it, and Sony was able to counter it. And now it looks like something that Microsoft is doing is popular, and Sony has had to play a little bit of catch up.
Do you think that Microsoft and Sony have coordinated these launches together in any way?
I mean, I'm sure they know enough about when this is launching or that is launching, and they know to stay away from each other.
Yeah.
And you can probably find out from the factory. I'm sure there's just production is probably
or whatever,
kind of an internal secret. And we know from being at E3 and other events and stuff that executives from these companies are friendly with each other.
Yeah, they're friends.
it wouldn't shock. I mean, it's in both of their advantages to know when the other is launching to keep their plans away from each other. So it's possible. I mean,
yep. So let's talk about Watch Dogs Legion and what they actually showed. As I said, it's now completely freeform, and you can literally recruit anyone in the game. And the gameplay and the presentation, they put out a lot of media for everything from Forward. Like as soon as Forward ended, it was just like cha-chung for pretty much every one of its games except Far Cry.
You wanted gameplay. You got it.
You got a lot of it. And then not only that, they had worked with all the sites, and those sites put up like 4-hour chunks of coverage. So you can't say that they didn't that they were trying to hide anything. They just basically laid all their cards on the table with these games, not the least of which was Legion. Did we know what the plot was in this game before now? Because I know I didn't.
But, I mean, I knew vaguely enough that it's more CTOS stuff, and they've basically locked down and become a tyranny state in the UK, and that's kind of what you're fighting against. We hadn't seen the guy who runs the
organization,
the system. Yeah, we hadn't seen the guy who runs the system yet, so he's clearly one of the major villains.
And then that lady, we did see the lady,
and the lady who's more of the black market, running the black market. So there'll be multiple factions. My thing for this is I just hope that they have kind of a direction, more of a pointed direction for it. Because to pass the time, I've been replaying Watch Dogs 1 and 2 a little bit. Not starting over, but just dipping into my old saves and kind of messing around. And it really is striking how unfocused they are in terms of directing you where to go next or what to do, or giving you a reason to care about what you're supposed to do next in the main quest. There's a bunch of times in Watch Dogs 2 where I'm just I could pick one of these myriad missions I'm supposed to do that's all mixed in with the online bullshit, which I really don't like. It feels like you never clear your quest log.
It's overwhelming.
It's too much. It's so many choices. You just sort of shut down and decide to auto drive cars through intersections and blow things up. That's really what I end up doing in every time I play Watch Dogs 2. Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping Watch Dogs Legion has, if not more of a focus, more of an organic way to kind of get in and out of progress, if that makes sense.
It seems like the focus was really them showing you how you could complete the same mission with different people. They did it, and then if you went and checked out all the coverage on GameSpot or IGN, they did it. They're like, okay, here's us doing this as an old lady. Here's us doing this as a truck driver. That seemed to be the thrust of everyone's coverage.
They're really trying to realize the that thing that you always see in the marketing bullet points of choose how you want to do it, and it's just well, and there's, just in the demo, in the Forward presentation, that they run in with a construction worker with a nail gun, which is pretty funny, and then they go in with a drone person, and then they basically recruit one of the bad guys and have him just walk in with his clearance, get the stuff he needs, and overhears the main bad guy. Plotting to overthrow the world. Plotting to overthrow the world, basically, and then murdering a guy in a boardroom. So there you go. So I like that. That's cool. It gives you an opportunity. It basically shows. I think that the big change, at least from what I recall, last E3's demo, it felt like you were going to need different classes to do different things, and it looks like they've changed it so you can use any class to do whatever you want. So if you want to have your whole squad be just grannies with drone skills, you can. So that's a good change. I think that's more of a realization of what the concept demands.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think this is a huge upgrade for Legion. Huge. My interest in this game skyrocketed. It
definitely seems like it would feel less compartmentalized now.
Yeah, I mean, it's on my radar as like a Game of the Year candidate after what they showed. If they can pull it off.
I'm just happy it's coming out because I need that alternate on the fucking fantasy team.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the plot is, here's the official synopsis direct from Ubisoft. After a mysterious assailant initiates devastating terror attacks on London, DedSec, a secret underground resistance, who is being blamed for the attacks. So you're basically trying to clear DedSec's name throughout the game. Which feels very familiar. I don't know if that's going to motivate me all that much.
It also feels a little, I don't know, something about the way it's set up or presented makes me feel like they're taking some pages from Ghost Recon. Like the giant open space where you just have things to do, and things you do will advance stuff and upgrade you, but you can kind of choose what to do as you do it.
Yeah. There's lots of parallels between this game and, again, with a Ubisoft game, between this game and what's going on in the real world. They seem uncanny to be able to predict what's going to happen in 2 years. It's very odd. And then they did talk about some other new features, like being able to hijack armed drones. You can use like augmented reality to reconstruct past events. And like almost this like investigative angle to the game, which I thought was cool, and I hadn't really seen much of that leading up to this. And then
I think that's a brand new revelation.
Is it?
I don't remember hearing about that before.
Yep, and then hacking, obviously, which is a tenet of the the very first one. That's pretty much what it was all about. So you can see how they've expanded into kind of these two other buckets now from what they did with the first game, which is good. That's showing progression for the franchise, which is what you want.
Watch Dogs has always had a lot of potential. It just never felt like they quite got it. It felt like, even Watch Dogs 2 felt like something of a reinvention of the wheel. Yeah. Because it feels like they knew they had something. They just had to find it, and it's taken them 3 games to get there. And part of the problem, just replaying some of Watch Dogs 1, part of the problem is like, I don't know who approved Aiden Pierce as a protagonist for that first game, but oh boy, what
he should have got the red light.
Wrong direction, folks.
What's the word for the antithesis of charismatic?
I
don't know.
There is one.
Whatever it is, that's what you would call that dude. Yeah, very not compelling at all. And then another big thing that they've changed actually for this build that they just showed, they've completely redone the melee system, and it looks crazy. Like somebody's
watching a lot of John Wick.
Yeah. How about that one scene where they have like a guy all dressed in black? He's like an assassin, and he's infiltrating that base. How about that whole sequence that's totally John Wick, where he's like flipping over dudes?
Song from the movie.
Yeah, disabling their weapons and putting them under their chin, like. Dude, if you could do that in the game, in addition to all the other stuff that you can do, that's pretty freaking sweet.
I mean, that's taken right out of the game. So yeah, those certain characters will have the skills to do those takedowns.
Sweet.
Not all of them.
Crazy.
But
like one shot where a dude headbutts another dude in the chest. Didn't that soccer player Zidane do that or something?
Zidane did, yeah. Like, I mean, that's that guy. I mean, that character that does that is clearly like the pub brawler hooligan guy. Yeah,
soccer hooligan guy. Yeah.
Like they are drawing on like kind of the stereotypes of London to sort of
GTA in that way a little bit. Yeah.
So I like it. I think there's a lot of, like I say, I've always said that about Watch Dogs. There's a lot of potential there if they can find it.
Yeah.
And it looks like this looks much closer to what and so did Watch Dogs 2, but like this looks much closer to what I want from a Watch Dogs game. From a game about sort of like elite hackers, like fighting the man kind of thing. Like that's what I'm kind of after with this. And I love the dispersed protagonist idea. Like that's a really cool way to go about it. It's almost the reverse of the Nemesis system.
Yeah, it is kind of. Yeah. Almost like it's inverted.
Yeah. So I'm into it.
Yep. Then the final tidbit that they dropped, I don't even know if they actually mentioned this in the presentation, but they've released this information since, is that there will be 4-player co-op in the game. However, you cannot play the campaign with 3 other players. They are special, separate co-op missions that you can go into the online environment and play through. So
that's interesting. They've been so obsessed with mingle player in that series that would be a pretty big change.
Yeah, but you know what? If they can fine-tune missions so that you have to make use of, all the abilities of all these different people to be successful, it could be really, really cool. You need to find very specific people to recruit to complete missions and stuff.
I definitely prefer that idea to like forcing other players into my game and stopping that's the other thing about Watch Dogs 1 that amazes me now is like they just stop the game to make you play an online mission at random points. And you can turn it all off, obviously, but like you're missing kind of part of the game. But like I've been in the middle of stuff and suddenly it's like, oh, you're being hacked by, like 420 smoke every day, 969. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I got to do this now. So.
Yep. So look, for me personally, my interest in Watch Dogs Legion went up significantly. I didn't think it was coming out this year. So I kind of just written it off a little bit and just forgotten about it and been like, okay, well, I'll start getting serious about that game once we get into 2021. So the fact that it's coming so soon was a surprise. The fact that it has so many changes and upgrades just since we saw it last is amazing.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of hoping it would be this year, but like when they announced Valhalla, I really thought that was the end of that. I thought they were like going to be like March, like barely scraping into end of first quarter.
It's going to be a great Q4. I mean, you got 3 juggernauts right in a row there. You got Watch Dogs Legion, you got Cyberpunk 2077, you got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I mean,
you got Miles Morales, you got a Halo.
It's going to be awesome. And we have new consoles. It's
probably Call of Duty. Probably Call of Duty in there somewhere. Yeah,
it's gonna be great. I'm so freaking excited.
We assume there's a Call of Duty this year. Yeah,
there is. Yeah, absolutely.
And whatever Nintendo's releasing.
Yeah,
we don't even know that yet.
That is a pretty big X factor right now. Honestly, we don't really know. We'll see how that plays out. Next up, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but we just talked about it for literally like 40 minutes last week.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about it a ton this time, although I would say they showed a ton of new stuff, even that wasn't in that, because we picked that demo clean. We found every little thing in that demo.
I mean, there were clips in the presentation from the demo, but like the demo, I mean, they did the whole demo after the Forward. They went to like live, they went to like more in-depth like stuff with the other games, and they did that basically whole section, that whole 30-minute demo there. And I watched it again. It looked a lot better in their screen because they had, full res footage and everything.
And the animations were complete. And
and then they moved on to Hyper Clash and I turned it off.
Yeah. Hyperscape, you mean?
Hyperscape. Yeah, I don't even care.
It's hard to remember the name of that game. You're not the only one. I keep mispronouncing it too. But the crazy part is that there was a ton of new stuff because, as we said earlier, it was just an information dump for this game. They published 30 minutes of their own gameplay, completely different from that demo that leaked. And then, like we said, all the publications played it for 4 hours and were able to publish pretty much whatever they wanted. So tons of new stuff I was able to discover just watching footage from this. I'm just going to run through it quickly. Again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this game because we just tackled it. So we were wondering last week about what the 2 meters were above the enemies. The bottom meter is a stun meter. And once you deplete the stun meter, they're basically sitting ducks and you can just finish them off. So that question was answered. It's actually not, I guess, is it a stamina meter? I guess. Probably.
Sort of. I mean, usually I would consider a stamina meter to be something you use to do things. And a stun meter is something that measures how badly you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what that second meter is below or above the heads of enemies. Enemy AI. Did you watch a lot of the footage, Matt?
Yeah, I watched it.
They're doing some crazy stuff, man. Like picking up like anything and using it for a weapon, even dead bodies. There's one scene where an enemy picks up a dead body off the ground and throws the dead body at you.
Yeah, I think they're trying to go for sort of a, survive at all costs, sort of like, war, you win a fight however you win a fight sort of thing. So like that makes sense. Like that this sort of like use anything around you to kind of like give yourself an advantage or throw the enemy off balance. And like, it's a more dynamic approach to combat that we haven't seen in Assassin's Creed in a very long time. So like, I think any kind of way of expanding how the game's combat works is a good thing, especially because the last 2 games have pretty much done the exact same thing with each other.
Yeah.
And this one is similar, but I do like that they're really messing with the combat. Like you can dual wield anything, including shields, which
you can
is
have
pretty
2
great.
shields if you want. Yeah,
like,
pretty cool.
Like that's like, double Captain America.
Like
that's
the
pretty
whole
good.
game.
Yeah. So like, and the combat seems to work a little differently depending on what you're dual wielding. So like, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of like subtle shifts there, and I like that. I think that'll keep things interesting. I mean, I will probably just use 2 swords the whole time, like because I know me. But like, I'm sure like there's somewhere out there. There's someone who is going to use 2 spears better than everyone else, and it's going to be some great footage on YouTube.
Yep, and I'll watch it, and that'll be good enough. The other thing what they showed was the enemies do team up attacks where they work together to inflict massive damage on you. This is huge for me. I have had issues with the AI in Assassin's Creed since the first game. It's been one of these games where they just sit and they wait their turns to attack. It looks like they're trying to flip all that on its head.
Believe me, the combat people have been irritated with that too.
I bet. I'm sure. So
it's part of the reason, like when you see games that work that way, and the enemies attack you one at a time. That's very common in a lot of games. Yeah. And one of the reasons that is because like the producers or the marketing or whoever's calling the shots is worried that if you make the enemies too dynamic in that regard, it's going to be too hard for the standard, the casual gamer.
Just drop down their hit points.
And
that's all you got to do.
so this is like a pretty big step. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm stoked by it. It's a big deal, I think.
I'm sure that the 1,000th time they do it, it will not be as impressive. But like early on, it looked like they were actually
coordinating.
It looks like they know how many of them are left and how many what they need to do to get through to you. There's like things where like you could see guys coming at you from kind of off camera a little bit, and so you got to keep an eye on your back. Like I liked it. I think it looked different for a game that so far has looked so much like its 2 predecessors. That was something that definitely made it look like an advancement.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it showed it, but at the same time, they only showed that sequence. When you watched the rush on the castle, she was picking them off one by one. They were all just standing there. So I was really confused by that when they're like, is it only a certain type of enemy that will team up for a combo? Because that's where I was a little thrown off by. Because also the combat system, I think, doesn't work well with multiple enemies at the same time. And I'm hopefully they...
Wait. You're talking about past Assassin's Creed games, right?
Correct. And this one seems they are trying to address it. But so far in the combat, I haven't seen enough that I think they've addressed attacking or managing more than one enemy at the same time. So I'll
see. I'm not sure about that because I used to kill like 15 guys at once in Odyssey without any problem. So
you should watch Matt play Odyssey sometime.
Yeah, I'm curious on how you play it, Matt. Because when I was playing Odyssey, that was probably, I would say, one of the weakest points of its combat, especially when you're doing that siege. In regards to like picking a side and doing battle against either the Greeks or the Spartans, is that the only way you would have an advantage if they came at you one by one instead of at more than once.
I mean, I think you're right that it's not built tremendously well to handle multiple opponents, but I did not have trouble handling multiple opponents after a while. Part of it is what weapon you pick.
They've added stuff over time. Like they have like that back block and stuff. Like they've tried,
and this is like, look, like obviously this is a focus of this game. So I don't think, I think you're going to have to play it first before we decide on that.
You always got to play it first before you decide anything. That's the rule. What else? Oh, stealth. Looks like it's coming back, and they showed
crowd blending.
They showed blending.
Yeah, I actually texted some people, and I'm like, "Crowd blending's back," and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
On my notes,
so no one else is watching it, right? I'm like,
in my notes, blending in all caps! Exclamation point. What was the last game that had it? Was it 2?
Syndicate.
Oh, okay, that's right. It did. Yeah. So it's been gone for a while. Good to see Assassin's Creed coming back. Like,
I mean, part of that was because like the last 2 games have not taken place in areas that are crowded enough to do that. Like it's just, it's just not. It
didn't make sense in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And so I remember saying like back when I'm like, I think the next one they're going to need to set it, as they progress through time and have bigger settlements, you're going to have situations where there's more people, and that gives the opportunity to bring back the blade in the crowd idea, which was sort of the base concept of Assassin's Creed originally. So
that's the other thing. The blade is back and full force, instant kills like it used to be. It's not just some little dagger that you have now. It's back to its old power. Again, some nods to the older games that I think should probably make longtime fans pretty happy.
Well, I'm interested to see where they keep going, is because like at some point the new games are going to kind of catch up to the time frame of the old games, and then you're going to be like, okay, well, how do you
rationalize it,
recreate the old games ideas in the new game series sort of gameplay design? Like you're going to have to figure that out, and it looks like this is like a baby step towards that.
Yep. Sinking appears to be back. They show a scene where he climbs to a tower and he blows a horn. I believe if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan at that point, you go, Skull. I don't even know what that is, but
it's their chant. It's annoying. As a Bears fan, it's annoying.
As a Bears fan, I'm sure you
love it.
I've
been to that stadium. It's annoying.
The new one? You've been to the new?
Yeah, I saw the last game of the season 2 years ago, and the Bears kicked their ass. So
it looks really nice, that stadium. What else? Oh, it just goes on and on. Tree parkour from Assassin's Creed 3. They showed a big part of that where he's running through the trees and on the branches and then jumps down from the top of a tree to assassinate. Something else that hasn't really been a big element of Assassin's Creed games for quite a while. So lots of throwbacks here. Fishing with a bow. You use your bow and you can fish with it. There's a stone stacking thing where you have to build a shrine.
Build cairns. Yeah.
Yeah. There's all kinds of little mini games like that.
Viking rap battles.
Is there a Viking rap battle?
Yeah.
Like there's the first announcement.
It's a
poetry.
I mean, they mentioned that before, but like they hadn't shown it before, and basically it's an insult battle. And this is actually historically correct. It's like they would like just, it was basically who could trade the insult back and forth best. And it had to be kind of like like Mitch said, it has to be like a poem almost. It has to rhyme or whatever. So the way they're doing that in English at least is your opponent says something at you, and then you get a bunch of response choices and a timer, and you have to basically pick the one that fits the meter and rhymes the best to what he said. And that's awesome. Like as an English major, I'm just like, oh, you have finally given me the mini game I want. Fine, here we go. So that was pretty cool that they're doing that. I'm sure it will get harder as you introduce internal rhyme and iambic choices, and maybe we'll have to construct a villanelle later. But I thought that was a really cool inclusion.
According to it seems chat, like skull means cheers.
Okay, I like that. I like a whole stadium of people yelling cheers. That's pretty awesome. And again, the more details just keep coming. Activities return governed by the adrenaline meter. That's the other meter that you have. It's an adrenaline meter. Would you consider, I guess that's a stamina meter.
Sort of, yeah.
Because that is actually keeping you from performing certain acts inside the game.
I mean, the real stamina meter seems to be defense-based.
Yeah.
You have a meter that depletes when you defend and block things, and if you do it too much, you're going to get tagged. Which is like, a good way to make the character feel less invulnerable, like the Odyssey character does, but like also not to like limit your offensive ability, because I think like certainly when you play a Souls game, that's where you run into trouble, is balancing defense and offense using the same stamina meter. Yep. And I would think that is a pretty widespread problem for people who don't play games like Dark Souls much. So that feels like a good way to introduce sort of like, hey, you gotta choose your moments, but we're also not going to penalize you attack wise if you want to just go buck biggity wild at this guy after you like block something, right? Because otherwise, like it is a different approach to a game. Like that wouldn't be fun in the way Assassin's Creed is.
Yeah, I mean they are completely different games for sure. Yeah. Other stuff. There's no regenerating health. You have to craft potions from all the stuff that you gather out in the world.
That's a big change.
Yeah, your mileage will vary with that. I am not a fan of that, having just played the Final Fantasy VII Remake, where I thought it was one of the most absurd gameplay mechanics ever. I'm not excited for that to be in Valhalla, but we'll see. Maybe they put
that was in Final Fantasy?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Dude, didn't you have like 80 potions in your inventory at all times? I did.
I guess. I don't remember. I mean, it reminded this watching this, I'm like, oh, it's like Resistance.
I mean, that game wasn't hard. The hardest part about the Final Fantasy VII Remake was constantly watching to make sure that you didn't need to take a potion. Like that was really the challenge of the game, is not getting distracted and not taking.
Right. I guess I just didn't expect auto regenerating health from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I thought more of Resistance: Fall of Man, which did the thing where like you have the discrete health chunks, and if you drop below that chunk, it goes away, and you have to like get a health pack to bring it back. But if you kept it within that chunk, it regenerated that chunk.
I'd be okay with that.
I like that system too. But we'll see how this goes. Like I understand kind of the desire to do sort of a live off the land angle.
They're trying to make it more like an RPG, really. I think.
But they're trying to make it fit the tone and the theme of the Viking thing. Like that. That's more. It makes more sense to do that with Viking stuff. I get it. We'll see if it's annoying or not, though.
And then the final thing they really showed off was branching story paths and how they actually do impact things on down the road. Again, this was a part of the leak. At the end of a boss fight, you choose whether to let the guy live or to kill him. And then that ends up trickling down because there's a wedding that happens. And if you let the guy live, then somebody shows up at the wedding that like ruins the wedding. He shows up and he like ruins the wedding and gets in an argument. And then if you kill him, obviously he doesn't show up there. So that was one example.
I bet his brother shows up instead, or something. I feel like it's not going to be that different.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that way. But they did say that is not just an anomaly. That is something that happens over and over throughout the game. We'll see. We'll hold him to that whenever we get to play it.
I mean, you can see them. They're really drawing from The Witcher 3 on the like. There's it really looks like The Witcher,
like a Witcher game. I'll just be honest.
Yeah. I mean, they're also
like supernatural, obviously, but
but like there's also even just like the setting is obviously gonna be a little similar because like the medieval sort of wood
fantasy.
But there's also like there's a quality to the lighting they're using that feels
absolutely.
like The Witcher 3 and like that kind of and also like. The Witcher games do take place in wet, muddy locations a lot, and this also does. So there's like when the main character's looking through like the cabin, kind of like a little house at one point, goes in and looks through stuff like on that demo that leaked. Like I was like, oh, that I mean, like he might as well have white hair at that point. I mean, kind of does. The main character is blonde, sort of. But I think the Witcher 3 I know is like internally among a lot of developers sort of the gold standard of what an action RPG should be. And so this it's been very influential, but now you're starting to see 5 years later games that were begun production well after everyone had finished and digested Witcher 3 sort of coming to fruition with like all those lessons in place. And I think this is an example of that. And I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, me either. I'm also really excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla after seeing all this stuff. And if you keep watching the footage, there's just all these little details. Like when you're on the boat, you have to like put down the mast before you can go under bridge. There's just all these.
You can have a ship cat. That's great.
There's just all this little stuff in the game. It's shaping up to be pretty cool. It looks good to me. We'll see. It's not far away either. November 17th, I believe, is the release date for that one.
2 days before Cyberpunk. Bold.
Oh man, how's that going to work for us?
Just go back and forth a lot, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
that's gonna be some whiplash there.
It may be a case where like
they're trying to play Dragon Age and Mass Effect at the same time.
The other plays Assassin's Creed for the first week. And then we flip for the next week's episode of GameFace. Then I jump on to the other one, and then you jump on to the other. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I'm just going to play. I'm just going to play both of them simultaneously.
Mitch will finish them in 18 hours.
Yep, before you
both of them.
I ain't waiting a week to play either one of those games. So
yeah, it's tough though. It's like, what do you do? And there's such different worlds. It's like jumping from one to the other is going to be jarring, to say the least.
It's like I say, it's going to be like playing Mass Effect and Dragon Age at the same time.
Yep.
It's just I don't know where I am.
I will say at the actual event that they did for Ubisoft, I will say I was a little muddled by everything they said because there wasn't very much of it.
We're not wrapping up yet, Mitch. We still got to talk about some stuff.
No, but I'm talking about Valhalla. But like the stuff they announced later on made the game seem a lot more interesting.
Okay. I thought it all looked great. I'm really excited for that game. And I wasn't at all really before, I'll be honest with you.
I think the animation's
mission
choppy,
accomplished.
But that's just my biggest thing so far I've seen from Valhalla is I think the animation's really, really choppy.
It's definitely better than it was in that leak. They've improved it a ton. That leak was like busted in some ways. And then the final big game from Ubisoft Forward was, why can't I say that? Was Far Cry 6. This leaked before actually a couple days before we kind of knew some details about it. The day before, the trailer leaked, but it was like, I don't know if it was like a Russian version or whatever. I can't remember what language it was in, but you could still follow the story because the trailer's really good. The debut trailer for Far Cry 6 is one of the better trailers I've seen in quite a while. And you didn't have to understand the language to know what was going on in the trailer and the leaks. And then, of course, the next day, it's announced for real, Far Cry 6 is coming February 28th, 2021, earlier than I expected.
February 18th.
I thought it was initially they said the 18th, but then the leak said the 18th.
Yeah, the
leaked trailer said the 18th.
The date on the trailer on the forward said 18th.
It did.
I will check it now. I'm running the trailer now. So.
Oh, I thought it was
4 days after my birthday. I am 100% certain that's what it said.
So the teaser.
I never watched the leak.
The teaser trailer, the leak had the 18th, and then I watched the trailer the next day that said the 28th. So I don't know.
What they ran in the forward presentation said the 18th.
Interesting. Okay. But anyway, it's coming earlier than I expected, a lot earlier than I expected. Let's see. The big story probably is that one of the stars of Breaking Bad plays one of the antagonists in Far Cry 6. Did they actually figure out or not whether the son is Voss from Far Cry 3?
Confirmed.
No, his name is Diego.
Yeah, but I mean, he could have got a street name or whatever later on.
That seems unlikely, but I don't know where the Voss thing is coming from. I know the guy who played Voss said like maybe he'll be playing him again soon or whatever. But like the last Far Cry had a bunch of standalone DLC, so that's what I think he's probably referring to. Is there will be standalone DLC that like has Voss in it.
Okay,
I don't think
because
this
of
is
the
him.
scar on his face.
Yeah, his eyebrow has the same scar, man.
Same scar in the same exact position.
Same exact scar.
So
yeah.
Well, that kind of blows the dramatic tension of that game, then, doesn't it? Because like the whole thing is like, is he going to choose? What's he going to choose to be? And
here I was just thinking Voss would be like a nickname.
I also don't think it time wise it's impossible because Far Cry. Then. No, Far Cry 6 takes place today, so it can't be
present
Voss.
Day.
Yeah, he's got a smartphone. Like it can't be Voss.
He does. He literally has the same exact scar through his eyebrow.
It might be a reboot because obviously they blew the world up in Far Cry 5. So maybe like this is just starting over in the universe and they're going to build to a new Voss thing later with him. But like
he is a great character.
That seems like a.
It was stupid to kill him off. To be honest,
it was stupid. I mean, they killed him off too soon in Far Cry 3.
He was hardly even in the game. I know.
But that's the thing is like a lot of the villains in Far Cry games have that problem. Where like not necessarily that they kill him off too soon because they didn't do that after Voss, but like even like Pagan Min is like they have to call you all the time because they're not really part of the game, you know. Like there's like Far Cry games always have like a really strong opening and a really strong closing and usually like a thing in the middle, and that's it. Everything else is just sort of like this blur of killing like panthers to make ammo bags kind of thing.
It's true.
So like I don't know. I mean, we'll see how involved is. Also, the kid is voiced by the kid who played the main character in Coco. Oh, the Pixar movie.
Then he's probably good.
Probably.
The basics of the plot are the game takes place on an island called Yara, which is a fictional island in the Caribbean. Basically, it's Cuba. Let's just be honest.
Very Cuba. I mean, you can tell that from like kind of how it's got that sort of like trapped in the past.
They
like
have all the old
cars and like it's like it's
Cuba.
It's very thinly disguised.
You play as a revolutionary leader named Danny Rojas, and he's trying to overthrow the leader of the island, who is played by Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito. He plays Anton Casillo, and then Anton is getting up in age, and he has a young son, as we were talking about, and his goal is to basically turn his young son into him, a ruthless dictator. And the trailer, so powerful, is really all about one of those transformative moments where he forces the child to become violent, horribly violent. And that's really all the information that we've got. Other than the fact that there will be different groups of revolutionaries across the island that you link up with and you become allies with. It also has the animal system where you recruit animals to fight along your side, which was a part of the last Far Cry game. And that's really it.
I mean, it's notable that there's a city.
Yeah.
There's never been a city in a Far Cry game before, so that's interesting.
That's true. Yeah, there's like an urban area in this one, which is a pretty big deal. You're not going to just be out in the jungle the entire time, which is good. I think that the series definitely needs something like that to break it up.
And I think
they're also pretty long.
I do think there's going to be there's always Far Cry always has drugs involved somehow. And if you watch the intro, like before, they have the trailer with Anton and Diego, but before that they do that sort of fancy stylized intro, which is actually by the guy who did the Westworld intro.
Yep.
You can see there's a lot of spraying of a red gas, a red fog on things, like they're all this. So I think whatever that is, it looks like there's some kind of biotech thing that maybe Anton starts that causes like something like. I feel like there's going to be that's the drug.
Eden. I mean, it's pretty common.
I think that's the drug. The red mist is the drug in this, whatever that is. Whether it's some pesticide or I don't know what they're doing.
Well, there's also a snake in the intro, so I was thinking snake venom, like a mixture of some kind of snake.
Yeah, I don't know.
An alligator.
There's a crocodile at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, it looked like a snake. Sorry.
No, it's a crocodile. It's a crocodile watching the conquistadors sail in and ruin everything.
Yep.
So, which is another interesting element because it's like, okay, so it starts with a crocodile, which is clearly there from the beginning, right? Like clearly there from before colonization, and watches the Spanish ships sail in and watches the conquistadors come in, and you get the hands with the breaking the chains and everything. So like, the implication of that is that like the problems they're going through now in Yara are systemic and go back all the way to colonization and like that, and so you got to wonder, it's like, is that going to be addressed in the game or is it just cool images? Like there's always that question in Far Cry. It's like they always have these like really cool, interesting premises that are like deal with like, a lot of times, like you said before, like deal with like the current zeitgeist or the political realities of things. And then they just don't go
dump all over it.
And you got to wonder.
Crap the bed. Yeah.
You got to wonder if will we see some more follow through on that in this?
Yeah. Well, is this also going to be one of those short Far Cry games, or is this going to be one of the long ones that takes you over 30 hours?
No, it's got a number on it. It'll be one of the long ones.
Yeah. Instead of the subtitle. So what do you guys think? Are you excited for this?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Far Cry games for the most part. I didn't think 5 was amazing, in part because I thought the villains were annoying, and I thought the setting was not as... I'm sorry, Montana is not as interesting as a far-flung, weird place. It was fine. It's not like I didn't enjoy 5, but of the modern Far Cry games, like that started, I would say, with 3, that's the one that I think that was the least memorable to me. I like New Dawn better because New Dawn had the post-apocalyptic setting that had a little more verve to it.
Yeah.
But this could be interesting. I mean, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see some gameplay. Like I was a little surprised we didn't see anything. I mean, they put some screenshots out after the presentation, but they're pretty obviously, the standard Ubisoft bullshots.
But you're right, though. Like, I looked at the screenshots and I'm like, we never saw the game.
No.
Nothing. Like, not even like a couple quick shots of what it even looks like in
game. It's coming out in February. It's not February, like this is coming out like 2 years from now. It's coming in like 6 months.
I mean, we'll probably see it at whatever the next Forward is. I'm sure that'll be one of the blowouts is that.
Well, we'll get to what's going to be in the next one because there was a lot of stuff missing in this one.
But it's just like, I mean, it's cool. It's nice to know it's coming. It's coming. That's about the early part of the year is when Far Cry's tend to release. So that makes sense that that's where it is. I'll watch Giancarlo Esposito read the phone book. So
exactly.
I'm in. Yeah.
There's
not not a ton to be excited about yet because they haven't.
He's so different in real life compared to the characters he plays. Cool. It's so bizarre.
And you see, he was talking about how he's saying like the next logical step for him is the MCU.
Yeah,
and he's thinking about, and so everyone's like, oh, he'd be Doom, or he could be Magneto, or he could, all these villains they want to name him. He would actually be a really good Norman Osborn for Spider-Man stuff. But my pick, and hear me out. Professor Xavier.
That's what I was going to say. If you're going to pick a hero, Professor Xavier.
Yeah, because he the comic book version. I mean, everyone I think is familiar with Xavier through the Patrick Stewart sort of cuddly Captain Picard portrayal. But in the comics, Xavier is a little shifty. Like he's a little. He is. He's a father figure, and he's kind of. But there's something behind the eye. You're like, what's he doing? He's got a scheme going, and I think Esposito would nail that. He can be like the warm father figure, but then like as soon as the X-Men like leave the room, he just got that last one shot of him like glaring at the door, like what's he doing? What's he doing?
He's
like
so good.
I think he'd be an amazing Professor Xavier.
He'd be
an amazing anything, whatever he wants to play. But I'd like to see him be a character that comes back over and over and over in the Marvel movies.
I think it's a great choice of actor. I just really hope they get a good script for him and they utilize him well. I think that's just the biggest. I'm not as into the Far Cry games because I think the thing that they push is the villain. It's on the cover, so it's obviously the villain, and they seem to miss every single time with it. It's just they need something to really make them more involved with the plot than they are, because it seems like they always have to call you to remind you they're still around instead of actually having them direct involvement in the game. And so I think
that's what Matt was saying. You have a good beginning, a good end, and in the middle there's just a whole lot of killing.
And I think it's doable because if you look at, I think something throughout this entire thing is they've shown that they have changed directions as Ubisoft in going away from formulas, and I think this might be going away from the formula as well, in regards to not doing the same game over and over again. And so,
well, my optimistic take on that would be if you're going to hire Giancarlo Esposito, you better have that script in place.
He can also turn a crappy script into magic.
Yeah, but they've also never hired a real name actor to play the villain in any of these Far Cry games before. And part of that might have been budget, but part of it is also like they didn't have any material worth doing that with yet. You know, I mean, Troy Baker really did a good job as Pagan Min, but like it's still not like, you know, Troy Baker is not Giancarlo Esposito. Not to say that performance-wise, but just in terms of big name celebrity status. So the fact that they are hiring Hollywood actors who we've heard of to play these characters says to me that they at least think they have something elevated over what they've done before. So fingers crossed for that.
Yep. And then some final things that were in there that we didn't really care about, or most people probably didn't care about. Valhalla is coming to mobile on August 6th. Yay. That's Ubisoft Smash Brothers clone. Might and Magic Era of Chaos is coming to mobile. Who cares? They did show some updates to Rainbow Six Siege, which I do hope people care about. We're not going to get into them. And then the one thing that they did show that was a new game was Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. That had been announced before, but we got the first trailer for it. It is basically like a strategy game set in the Tom Clancy universe. The trailer for it was really cool.
I feel like I'd seen that before.
That trailer?
That game. I feel like I knew about that game.
Yeah, it had been announced a while ago. This was just the first trailer that they had put out for it. So we've known about it for quite a while, but this was the first look at it. And Sam Fisher was like the star of the whole thing from Splinter Cell.
Well, I was going to say it's the wrong type of Sam Fisher blowout you want, because many people are not happy about that.
Yeah,
like you can get Sam Fisher here,
might be time to give up on the Splinter Cell hopes, folks.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, of the three big games, Far Cry 6 number 3 for me as far as interest. It may be because I didn't get to see him play it. That probably has a little bit of an impact on it. But just overall, my interest in playing that game is probably the lowest.
Also, Far Cry 6 is, you know, unless the gameplay reveal shows us something really revolutionary, Far Cry 6 is the most known quantity of those three games, I would say.
Yeah.
The Tom Clancy thing I was most interested in was run before the presentation started, and that was the update to Breakpoint that adds your squad back in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They had to release a trailer for it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
So that's fun. I mean, cool. Like I might go back to it for that just because I did miss the squad. I like that part of Wildlands.
Yep. And then there was just tons of stuff missing. Several huge games. Gods and Monsters wasn't there. Rainbow Six Quarantine wasn't there. And then when it ended, I'm like, what? I'm like, where are all these games? Roller Champions wasn't there. And then they announced exactly
the one man who cares about Roller Champions.
Well, I realized Just Dance. Like I'm waiting for the opportunity for them to say Just Dance is going to be on more platforms than ever before, including the Wii, because they still release it for the Wii.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Just Dance is on mobile. It's on your mobile. It's already on your mobile right now. We just put it there
since you bought your phone.
Pre-installed.
Yep. So I was pretty disappointed when it ended initially. I was like, oh my God, like they just forgot half of their lineup. Are these games like delayed into forever? I mean, Skull and Bones, they did announce is being reworked again. So
that's a lot of reworking for pirate ships blowing each other
up.
Up.
When we've already had Assassin's Creed that did it.
Yeah, it feels like you got a template.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that game. I think it might end up getting canceled.
Possibly.
But regardless, there's several big games from Ubisoft they didn't show, but we're apparently gonna get a look at those in the next month.
My assumption on this is that like they were showing us the immediate lineup.
Yep,
Like
what's coming before the end of the year and in February. Yeah, so probably Quarantine isn't coming until after February of next year. Gods and Monsters probably isn't coming until after February of next year.
Beyond Good and Evil 2, God knows where that is.
I was going to say Gods and Monsters for a game that was going to come out in like 6 months from when they announced it 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like last January.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like nowhere to be seen.
Beyond Good and Evil 2, they didn't show. I mean, we all know that that's moved to next gen at this point. But I mean, the good news is we're going to get another look at their stuff in a couple months. So I was bummed when it ended at first, and I was like, that was a really crappy press conference. But then when I understood that it was just one of a tree or of a pair that are coming before the end of the year, I was like, okay, now I kind of get what they're doing now. So with all that in mind, we're going to give a rating for Ubisoft Forward. I'll start. I'll give them.
You didn't talk about the Phil Spencer message.
Oh, what Phil Spencer message?
He just popped up briefly and was like, "Hey, Xbox is excited."
But I did kind of reference that though, because when I said earlier how they had joined up with Assassin's Creed, that's what I was hinting at.
But he mentioned both Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, but he spent more time focusing on Assassin's Creed, which is why my guess is Assassin's Creed has an Xbox deal.
Yeah.
I just think we should ban the phrase "I can't wait for you to see" from all game marketing and PR. Like, I'm just like, I don't care.
They wouldn't have any press conferences, Matt. I hear you.
Let the man wake up before you record the thing in his own home office. Like, I know we're in our quarantine times and all, but sometimes it just feels like no one quite knows where they are.
I think also the other comment was he's head of Microsoft and can't afford a nice microphone.
Oh. Well, the headsets that they send out with Xbox are pretty crap at this point.
That's true.
They're true. Barely a headset at this point.
They're barely plastic.
Yeah, they're really, really cheap. So it's time to give it a letter grade rating. For me, I'm going to give Forward a C. I actually didn't miss a lot of the stuff from Ubisoft's usual press conferences. I didn't really miss the dance number. I didn't really miss seeing some weird toy that may or may not ever get released. I liked their presentation better as a direct, where it was just like, hey, here's this thing, look at it now, and then they show it to you. Now, if we were to compare this to like Ubisoft's press conference from E3 2019, it's like an F. But as it turns out, that's not really what it was. And we're getting another one, so I'll give them a flat C. I thought the stuff that they did show looked really, really good. Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it like a B-. I was happy with pretty much everything they showed, except some stuff in the middle I didn't care about. That was minor. I didn't miss anything about the press conference aspect. I have no real affection for the spectacle of that stuff and kind of the time-wasting elements of it. If you want to just do this thing, it's kind of Nintendo Direct style thing where you just show me the game, like Sony has done for a long time, which we kind of maybe forget because they haven't done a press conference in 2 years. I am completely fine with that. Like, usually in that scenario, you have more games and shorter presentations. This was more the other direction, like long presentations of a few games. But I'm okay with that too, as long as I'm interested in the games. Like, that's kind of the trick, is like, if I didn't care about one of these games, it would have been a big turnoff. But as it stands, I thought it was really good.
Now, one thing I did notice, I watched the YouTube stream, and there were only 83,000 people watching that stream. And I was like, holy crap, man, that's bad. But then Mitch told me that on Twitch, it was like 800,000 or something.
Yeah, Twitch. I watched it on Twitch, and it was plenty of people.
Yeah, huge. What about you, Mitch? What's your letter grade?
Mine's going to be a hot take. I say D+. I think EA did a better job. My issue.
Don't hear that phrase much. Yeah. EA did a better job.
EA did a better job. I only say this because I think, unfortunately, they waste, like Matt was talking about, we were just talking about, 800,000 people were watching it on Twitch. And I think they shared more information about each of these games outside of their presentation than they did inside the presentation. Like, even
that's always going to be the case, though, because they have 45 minutes for a presentation and they have infinite time after the presentation.
Like, an example, Watch Dogs Legion showed a Into the Spider-Verse live action trailer when they could have been talking more about Watch Dogs Legion and showing more of the stuff that they were saying that is going to be different about the game. They wasted it on this trailer that I felt like was a waste of my time. That's what I felt like throughout this entire conference. Like, it was just a waste of my time. And things finding out post, I was like, well, I should have just waited until it was over and then just watched all the coverage that they blew up after, because I would have got more information out of that than spending time sitting down and watching your presentation. I think it's the same thing with Assassin's Creed. We probably learned more information about Assassin's Creed after than we did during. And I think the stuff during...
That's always going to be the case, Mitch. Always.
I don't think so.
It is.
It is.
What are you talking about?
That's always been how these things work.
It's always been that way. You have to squeeze every game into like an 8-10 minute window.
See, even in the old days, you sit through the press conference, you see the presentation, then you'll go check your email and get the press release to find out the real bullet points. And then so you have to present in the live pit. Like, that's always how it's going to work. Because
it's always going to be that way.
But I mean,
you could argue that they picked the wrong things.
They showed more outside of it than they did inside of it. And I think they should show more inside.
That's always going to be that way.
That's all. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that the CG short for Watch Dogs was confusing. Like, I don't know why that was there.
It was frivolous for sure.
It was frivolous. I mean, I know they must have put time and money into it and stuff, but like, it was, and the guy is the guy who made it is famous for kind of things like that. I just thought it was confusing at first, where I was like, wait, is this what the game looks like? Did they make Watch Dogs Legion into the Spider-Verse? I think co-opting the Holocaust poem is a little questionable for your fantasy Orwell game.
That's weird.
And in general, I mean, I do agree that, like, I know it's in there because they spent money on it and they had to use it. But like, and it was probably a thing that would have made more sense in a press conference setting. It was probably something they couldn't cancel because it's probably been in production for like the last 9 months or so.
They just don't really do gameplay live anymore because there's been so many disasters. It's just not something that's a part
everyone's still anymore. I mean, this is almost unusual that they did so much gameplay at all in this, just because the trend, especially last year, was to not show gameplay at all because everybody nitpicks things that aren't the same. Well, not even that, but Pubblegate with Spider-Man and people that still complain about the lighting being different in The Witcher 3 and things like, it just doesn't get you anything. It doesn't, there's no advantage to showing gameplay until you're really close to release candidate.
But I will say, like, after, and the reason why I'm just giving it a lower score is because this is what they showed off at their conference. Now, if I put all the post stuff together, it would definitely be a higher score, but it's after the event and people. I mean,
didn't they just show probably 2 Game of the Year contenders in 40 minutes?
I would say one of them is potentially Game of the Year. I don't think Valhalla is in my mind at this moment.
Oh, okay. But let's just think about everybody else. I think everybody else would agree that they showed maybe 2 Game of the Year candidates in their press conference.
I know one. You
can fight me on this, or you can come along for the ride and get into the conversation.
I can see why you would do the view, because Odyssey did get Game of the Year nod. I could see it getting another.
Valhalla will be on nominee lists, whether we agree with it or not.
Sure. Yeah. No.
So with that in mind, showing 2 GOATY candidates in one 40-minute press conference, that's pretty impressive. I don't know if did EA do that?
But I think
did EA do that?
I think I was more impressed.
Did EA do that?
You're not letting me talk.
I'm just saying.
I know, but I'm just saying I was more surprised and impressed in regards to, like, seeing Star Wars Squadrons made me go, whoa. And I didn't get any whoa moment from this. I didn't get a moment where I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. Wow, this is going to be amazing to play. And I got, I'll enjoy it, but I didn't get the wow. And I think
that's fair, but I think you just don't like Ubisoft games much.
Yeah, sure sounds that way.
Which is fair. They're all kind of the same game.
They are.
Well, I will say similar template. I will say that their template seems to be changing, which is my vast excitement for Legion. I think I'm really excited for Legion. For Valhalla, after hearing everything post it, now I'm a little more interested in Valhalla. But when they showed it off, it seemed more the same, and I was surprised they didn't show off what made it more different. I wish they did, and I just didn't think I got that. I didn't get that.
Tiny2K, thank you for all those subs. Hey, I actually have some great news to share. We just had our best month for Twitch Prime ever. So everything's working. We actually made more money on Twitch Prime than ever before. So thank you guys. all the subscribing that you guys are doing. It's all working. It is absolutely helping us. So thank you. Thank you, Tiny2K. Thanks to people like Sound Wizard who come into our chats and just drop subs like they're matchsticks. Like all those guys, it's helping us a ton. So thanks a lot, guys.
What else did EA show than Squadrons? I can't remember anything.
Exactly.
There was some kind of Apex Legends update.
Kingdom Key.
What was that?
I think it was called Kingdom Key. The one that looks like Nightmare Before Christmas. I really dig that. Oh, no, it's the dice game.
Game. What?
It was a die game.
Look, they showed Star Wars, they showed FIFA, they showed Madden. I mean, those were the big games.
I mean, look, if I got to pick one of those games out of all the things between these two presentations, it's going to be Star Wars Squadrons, but that's because it's me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember anything else for me.
I can't either because there wasn't anything memorable. Anyway, let's move on. We're going to talk about the PlayStation 5, but probably the least, at least I thought, the least exciting aspect of PlayStation 5 would be its box art. However, it literally was like the second most commented story on Sifted this week. The discussion over the boxes for PlayStation 5 games. Matt, why do you think that is? Why do you think people care about it?
If you're still buying physical media, you're going to have a lot of those in your house after a couple of years. Yeah. So I guess you better like what they look like. Typically,
all that really matters is the spine, right? Because that's all you end up seeing.
But it's just like people, there are, if you're into like hardcore into the games, like you could, the look of a console's game packaging sort of defines a little bit of its look and a little bit of like how you think of it.
And you do see the console in the box art.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black and white,
a lot of white kind of lining everything.
Yep.
I think it could use a little more outlines. Like it could use more black highlighting on the outlines of the white.
I said this in a couple places. I think it looks like Japanese box art. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I don't know why that is, but there's
because it has this clean kind of like uncomplicated look because of the white. I think, and also because like a lot of Japanese like classic stuff used white. Like the Saturns were a lot of Saturns were white.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I think you're right. I think that might be why that hit me that way. I think it looks fine. I think it looks good. I think it differentiates itself enough from the PlayStation 4 games. It does still have the same blue plastic shell as PlayStation 4 games.
But I think with the white, you got the blue plastic shell, which is the standard Blu-ray case. And with the white, I think the white on it, when you're setting up on a shelf, it'll pop.
It does.
Against everything else. And it's very clear it's a different thing from the PS4 games.
Yep. Yeah. Like I think it checks all the boxes, right?
Yeah. And remember, only Miles Morales really needs to differentiate itself because as far as we know right now, that's the only PS5 exclusive that won't work on PS4.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And also, like, I'm sure, I really feel like there's probably going to be a hybrid box. Like a box for games that work on both PS4 and PS5 that sort of like splits the difference somehow. And I think the white and the blue will look good next to each other.
Interesting.
If you got if on the strip up top, they've kind of divided it and like one side says PS4 with the blue and one side says PS5 with the white. Like, I feel like that's going to look good with each other. Like the blue and the white are going to look good together.
So what would it be? Like a PS4 game that can play on PS5?
They're all the same thing.
Well, why would you need to signify that they can?
Because you can buy that physical disc and play it on either. That's why. It's to tell the consumer that no matter which system you own, you can take this disc home and it will work inside of it, in it. Whereas or they'll just maybe come up with some kind of an icon or a logo they'll stick up in the corner. I think they're going to do more of a hybrid thing because you want to make it really clear. Because this is a paradigm shift. Even now you've got people that are hardcore into games and are ready to pre-order with their money and and they're sitting on these forums and Twitter and everything asking like, well, when do I get to buy the PS5 version of Ghost of Tsushima? And it's like, there isn't
confused,
one. Like they're just going to carry forward. And like, part of the reason maybe is because we can't believe it. It sounds too good to be true.
I know.
A little bit.
I mean, it is a little bit of a technical marvel.
It is. Well, it's also a little bit of a marketing marvel in the sense it's like, oh, you're not going to squeeze us for like $5 extra to play the PS5 update or anything, like, because that's what Nintendo would do.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little later in the show. We're going to talk about backwards compatibility as one of the later topics.
But I think if they decide to do like a hybrid sort of this game works on both systems packaging choice, the blue and the white work well together. And even if they don't, the blue and the blue and white work well together in terms of the Blu-ray case color and the white on the label.
Mitch, what do you think of the box art?
I'm indifferent. I mean,
I
know what it is. Like that's at least I can read it, and it's similar but yet different, so it works. I have no complaints about the PlayStation 4 case. So just to change it to white matches the console at least compared to the PS4 one. I don't think is it blue?
The case is blue.
Case is blue. The system's not.
No, but I mean the banner. You have the banner where it says, I think it's blue. So at least it matches the case of like the console.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think the PS4 one is blue because Blu-ray.
Yeah, probably.
They like blue stuff.
Plus blue is also their like secondary base color.
Yeah, PlayStation has been kind of blue identifying since like PlayStation 2, because that was their power light, has been blue for a long time.
I'll say this. I've been doing a lot of rummaging. That's why there are these like boxes of crap behind me here. There's like my GameCube and like my GameCube bongos and stuff. I've been going through these cabinets, like clearing stuff out and like putting like the power supply for this console in the box it's supposed to go in. I've been doing all that kind of stuff. And so I've been uncovering like a lot of things related to hardware over the last week or so and doing a lot of organizing. But what I've realized is that the Xbox One, I only own 2 physical games for Xbox One. 2. And one of them was given to me at Pactor's party one year at E3. I own really 1 box game for Xbox One.
There.
I've never had a console ever in my life where I only owned 1 or 2 physical games for it before I moved on to something else.
I have 18 Xbox One games, but like I would say 90% of those have been replaced by digital copies already.
Yeah.
Like I haven't put a disc in my Xbox in a very long time.
My PlayStation 4, I have a pretty big physical collection of that because I've bought every third-party game, all its exclusives. I bought hard copies of that.
PS4's got 2 shelves back there. That's more robust.
Yeah, and Xbox always sends me code for its first-party stuff, so I'm not buying that. So yeah, I have 2 games,
and then Game Pass on top of that.
Right? Yeah, it really has become like a media-free platform for me, which is the first time that's ever happened for me. So anyway, I think all 3 of us thumbs up for the PlayStation 5 box art. It looks fine, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah, no, you're gonna not buy the games because they don't like the box. That doesn't matter. It's just something to argue about while we wait for real information.
Yep, absolutely. Next, we're gonna stay in Sony's camp, and I think this actually is PlayStation 5 related, but we'll talk about it and try to figure it out because at first I was really confused about what was going on here. This week, Sony invested $250 million into Epic Games to take a minority stake in the company. And when I say minority, I mean minority. That $250 million got them 1.4% of Epic Games, which right now is its valuation is $18 billion is Epic's valuation. So Sony spent $250 million and got a little over 1% of Epic, which is crazy. But what's crazier is why? Why is this happening, Matt? Why would Sony, a platform holder, invest that much money into a third-party publisher / developer?
China. The answer is for any kind of weird thing like this. The answer is almost always they think they see a way into the Chinese market.
Okay. So you think because Fortnite is in China and is a big deal there that they are looking at that as a Trojan horse to get their products into the territory?
That would be my guess, yes.
Interesting. Huh. There's a couple theories that are kind of making the rounds. And look, there were quotes released by both sides, and maybe I should just read those. Here's a quote from PlayStation. Epic's powerful technology in areas such as graphics places them at the forefront of game engine development with Unreal Engine and other innovations. There's no better example of this than the revolutionary entertainment experience Fortnite. Through our investment, we will explore opportunities for further collaboration with Epic to delight and bring value to customers and the industry at large, not only in games, but also across a rapidly evolving digital entertainment landscape. Okay, that's the quote from PlayStation. Here's the quote from Epic. Sony and Epic have both built businesses at the intersection of creativity and technology. and we share a vision of real-time 3D social experiences leading to a convergence of gaming, film, and music. Together, we strive to build an even more open and accessible digital ecosystem for all consumers and content creators alike. So it sounds to me like the play here for Sony is maybe currying favor with Epic to do live events on PlayStation 5.
I'm sure there's some of that there, yeah. No, it makes sense, especially because Sony does have a music division and a film division and all that. I mean, it's a very important cross-marketing tool for them. And again, I think China is one of the markets they're targeting with that.
China.
But it makes a fair amount of sense, especially because as you see, the concerts and live events thing rise in Fortnite, and concerts and live events are not going to be happening in real life for a while. So, it's a big bet, but considering that Sony is a massive multimedia company, it makes more sense than, say, if Microsoft did it.
Because it's such a big bet, Matt, do you think that this is going to become a pillar of PlayStation 5? Like when we have that next big blowout for PlayStation 5 and they kind of lay down their business model for the platform, do you think that this is going to be sort of one of those tentpoles, one of those pillars for their business?
Maybe. I mean, there might come a day when we got to watch the Sony press conferences in Fortnite.
Right. I mean, I don't even know if it's Fortnite. Like, I wonder if Epic is just going to build a tool for PlayStation so that it can then hit the ground and run with it. And maybe it works with Unreal Engine 5.
Maybe.
Like a PlayStation Home 2.
I was actually about to say PlayStation Home 2. Like, here we go.
But something that's actually good and compelling.
And you can tell Sony misses that concept. They wanted that to work.
They really did.
They were ahead of the curve a little bit on that, too.
Yeah. Maybe they work with, PlayStation VR 2. Maybe it's a huge component of that.
I think it just
that also makes sense.
I think it just affects their entire business model. I mean, where you guys are just talking about the live events, Matt's talking about attacking the Chinese market, and I think it's even the engine itself. This could reduce costs for Sony to try to create their own engine by saying, hey, Epic, we need an engine that does X, Y, and Z. Make it for us, and we can spend less on it. Like
the thing is that Epic really already has that engine. Like
Unreal, they would just have to add tools to it.
Yeah. It's already
they don't need to build a new engine because Unreal does everything they needed to do.
Right. Yeah, they're making like TV shows and movies already from Unreal. Like those tools are there.
Well, yeah, and then on top of that, you look at it as Sony as a movie company as well. That's assets they can give to Epic to be able to put inside their games. Like they talked about with that engine is they took the rock formations from The Lion King and popped it right on there, and they didn't have to do anything else to it. So it just gives Epic and Sony a partnership that gives them more tools in the toolbox for either.
Because think about it, if they can start pulling assets from their films, putting them into Unreal, and then create some interactive experience around it, you start thinking about their marketing and their licensing deals, what they can do with that technology, and then you pile PlayStation 2 on top, or PlayStation VR 2 on top of it. That's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty compelling
Well, they're
argument.
also making film and TV shows based off PlayStation properties. Wonder if that has a connection to it as well.
It could.
And it would help if they can use. I mean, Unreal's the key to the Mandalorian, and the shooting they use for that, where they real time generated the environments. Like if you haven't watched any of the behind the scenes stuff about Mandalorian, you should, because it's fascinating, and they worked with Epic to make all that stuff happen. Most of what you see in the Mandalorian is not CG. It is. What is CG, but it's real-time Unreal Engine generated in a circular theater studio they're shooting in, and so and they're moving the background like with the camera digitally to match the point of view of the camera, so it all looks proper and does that. So if Sony can get that tech or a variant of it and use that for their Sony studio, because they've formed that production company that's supposed to make games or movies out of game properties that they own.
Yeah, Twisted Metal's first.
Doing Twisted Metal, they got The Last of Us in development. If they can use that is the one thing you'll see Jon Favreau and all the Mandalorian people say is not only did it save them a lot of money and a lot of location shooting, but it gave them a lot of flexibility and power to change things on the fly, to know what they were getting in camera, to know what they needed to do the next day, to know and to change setups faster than anyone could ever have done with a physical set. So if they can streamline that production for Sony's kind of PlayStation movie division, that will be a huge boon to that, because the one thing you definitely don't want to do is spend years wasting time trying to get this stuff done properly in kind of traditional filmmaking style, like they did with the Uncharted movie that never went anywhere after. How long has that been? Like 9 years now?
9 years.
They're still working on it, believe it or not.
The tech is called Stagecraft, and the Stagecraft itself was produced by ILM, but the technology in regards to the graphic background they used was created by Epic.
Yeah. Yep. So I would bet that they'd be able to kind of create their own sort of idea on that. I don't know. ILM is owned by Disney, obviously, so they're probably not going to be farming out that info. But like, if they can do it, Sony's probably got some people that can cobble together something comparable.
Yeah, I think the conclusion that we've come to, I think, in our discussion is that this is a more pop culture play than a gaming play. Like, I don't think PlayStation invested $250 million in Epic so that Fortnite 2 is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. I think this is for other stuff.
I think this is like company wide for Sony. The eye is to it being a company wide advantage going forward. And I still think a lot of it is because it gives them an in China. If you can use that kind of like, presentational power to hype up certain things or movies or whatever, or TV shows or whatever in China and create a demand for it, you have a stronger likelihood of having that product be cleared for distribution or screening in the Chinese market. So I think it's a cliche that's why everyone's doing everything in the film and TV is to try to get into China, but it's also true because there's a huge market
untapped
there.
Market. Yes, I mean,
even though you only get like 50% of the profit because China holds a lot of that profit in regards to the box office compared to other countries.
Volume, it just makes it worth it.
The volume
it's
makes
all
it
gravy
worth it.
too.
And also the exposure, that's the headline you want. #1 in China, that means a lot to other countries and territories.
Very few films, budget counting on generating a ton of money from China is generally just great.
Well, now they do.
Now they do. Yeah, that has kind of changed over. And certain films too seem to target it more.
Tentpole stuff plans ahead for China. That's why you'll see like Chinese settings sometimes. Like a lot of times Michael Bay did that with Transformers. Like at one point, the whole back half of Age of Extinction takes place in China, specifically because they knew they were going to try and play it in China as a major thing, and because Chinese companies were investing heavily in the productions. That happens a lot. Yeah, it's a part of filmmaking now. That's where some money is, and it's where the interest is. Maybe more importantly, like there's a hunger for those movies, and it's kind of a wide open market in the sense that you don't always know what's going to hit, and they're not dominated by Marvel and Star Wars the way Western markets are. Star Wars has no real traction in China.
I know,
because the old movies didn't really have a foothold there. So it's a much more level playing field in a way.
Yeah. For sure. And again, untapped market. They're the opportunity to, if you're looking to grow your business, that's where you grow it. You grow it in China. I mean, that's just the way it is. At this point, the world is so globalized. If you're a mature business, you've pretty much figured out how to milk everything you can out of the West. And now you need to figure out the East. And I think you're right. I think Epic is a gateway into that market.
It's kind of a gold rush situation.
The other part of it, too, is that China will actually be going back to movies here in the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, we probably won't be in a movie theater for the next year. So,
they're shutting some stuff down again.
Yeah,
Hong Kong Disneyland's closing again.
Disneyland, yeah. And then I was going to say, like, if you want a prime example of like how much the Chinese market means to people, like the only reason why Mulan has not gone to video on demand is because they want that China money. The reason Mulan has not gone to video on demand is because it costs $200 million, and you're not going to make that money back.
You'll never recoup that with Disney Plus.
I think I've said this before. But like
video on demand, like order it.
It's still video on demand. It's still you're still cutting that
way either.
Right.
Listen to the guy who has followed movies since the 70s. You can't cut the distributors out of that contract. You cannot cut the theaters out of those contracts. You can't do that for the $200 million tentpole movies. None of those will come to VOD. Like you can get like Trolls World Tour on there because it's a kids movie, and you are going to make enough money from parents desperately buying that to like
over and over
quiet.
And they already got in trouble with the movie industry and by doing that. So like the
movie industry wasn't thrilled, but the theaters are always going to be a little more dependent, but like you still have to pay out sort of the agreements on that. But for stuff like Mulan, Tenet's going to continually slip by 2 weeks forever.
Will as well. Every big budget movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't even surprise. Everything's going to move to next year, and it's almost going to have to, because no one can shoot anything new right now. So there's nothing to release next year. If you release, like, we're going to lose a year in movies. Basically, is what's happening here.
Absolutely. There's no getting back that production time. You just can't. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about what may be the last micro console ever, unless we eventually do get that N64 Mini from Nintendo someday.
Not until I get my mini Saturn.
Well, that actually may be another opportunity.
It's not impossible.
But I just wonder if the market is there for that. But then again, I wonder if the market is there for this one too.
What's the market for the TurboGrafx one? Like,
is there?
Well, in like
where's the market for? I'm sorry, the Intellivision. Come on.
Say 5 years from now, Shane, it would be the micro console for the PlayStation 2. Like, they'll just keep coming.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like we've kind of exhausted a lot of opportunities, and I think Sega may feel that way too, because its next micro console, called the Sega Astro City Mini, is a collection of 36 of Sega's most popular arcade games onto a little micro console that looks like an arcade machine, I would add.
Yeah, it looks like one of the old Naomi machines.
It reminds me of those old little Pac-Man machines. They had like Pac-Man and Space Invader that actually had like a little joystick that you played, and they looked like an arcade machine.
Old LCD games. I had a couple of those.
Yep. I still have one at my mom's house at home. I saw it when I was there last. God knows when I'll go back there again now. But anyway, that's basically Sega's new micro console. I think maybe the biggest thing about it is that some of the games are 3D. We did get some of those with the PlayStation Micro, or what was the official name of the PlayStation one?
PlayStation Classic or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. We did get a couple of those with that. So this isn't the first micro console to have 3D games. They haven't even announced this for the West yet, Matt. Do you think they ever will?
Maybe, because Sega don't give a fuck these days. But it's so arcade nostalgia is for that era is very Japan only kind of folk. I mean, I do have, like, I would buy one if they released it here for a reasonable price, because I do like a lot of those games. But I was a Sega nut who was still going to arcades in 1998 in the Bay Area, which had Japanese arcades and Japanese imported arcade games like at various places. So I don't really count. I would be a little surprised if they brought it here, just because like the build on the thing seems like it would be not cheap for one of the, it's not like just slamming a bunch of hardware in like a little box like the other micro consoles are. It feels like there's a little, you got the joysticks and the buttons and everything like that. It just feels like it's a little elaborate to be like kind of what the hell, we'll just put it out in America anyway. But I'd like to see them do it. I'd like to get one without having to import it. But I don't think that's probably going to happen. Yeah, because import prices on this will probably be pretty insane, would be my guess. Yeah, they're going to be they're going to be pricey, I think, just because of the awkwardness of the size of them. Yeah, and I just think the law of supply and demand, as far as the West is concerned, I don't expect a lot of import stores to buy a lot of them, so they're probably going to jack up the price on them when they first get them in. And then probably what will happen is no one will buy them, and you and I will be able to waltz in 2 months later and get it for like half price. But anyway, I'm losing interest in micro consoles in general. They were a novelty to me at first because, just like you, I've been buying and playing these games all along. Like, I get that people who are in their 20s or whatever, a lot of this stuff is all new to them. But I've already bought this stuff. I've already played this stuff. I've already talked about this stuff. I've already forgotten about this stuff, and I've moved on. And so these micro consoles for me, they just have very limited appeal. And it is odd because, again, I've been doing a lot of cleaning out of stuff lately, and I have like almost all of them. Like, they're all in their boxes. 2 of them were never even opened. I got them and they're still sealed to show you that they just hold very limited appeal. I think I got them just thinking that maybe someday they'd be worth money, but then they ended up reproducing all of them, and that's not going to be the case. I don't know. Do you think, am I alone in this, or do you think other people are starting to kind of lose their I think there'll always be a hardcore group that just will play things over and over again. But I think most people, even who are really into the game scene, mean, certainly when I get these nostalgia boxes, like I look through everything, I play everything, I will load up a game. Like, oh, I remember that. Cool. I haven't played that in a while. I play that until I die, and I back out and pick another game, and then I turn it off and never do it. Never look at it again. Like
that's how when I do play them, that's what I do. I play the game until I die, and then I quit, and then I never go back again.
I think that's pretty standard, and far be it from me to agree with Hideo Kojima on anything, but he said many years ago, like 10 so years ago, I think, something along the lines of like, video games are the worst aging artistic medium, like, because like you can watch a Charlie Chaplin movie and get essentially the same experience that someone who watched it when it was new got, because people and stories and the real life are all the same, more or less. Like you will understand you will understand the emotions and situations trying to be conveyed in city lights.
Yep.
But like, you go back to Metal Gear 1, and like, it's tough. You're not even gonna be able. A lot of people aren't even gonna be able to play that now, because like gameplay has evolved, interactivity has evolved. Like it all just leaves it in the dust.
I put out my N64 for a segment that I did on Sifted HQ. I have like an old Rockstar ROM lying around here that I plugged in. I didn't even know what was on it. And anyway, that was a month ago or whatever on the show. And I started realizing that a lot of the N64 stuff, like, it's almost unplayable. Like, I started popping cartridges in, and it took me a really long time to just get used to using the N64 controller. It is so awkward now. I mean, back when it came out, it wasn't awkward at all because it was the only controller with an analog stick. Now, man, having your hands so close together with the stick and the button, it just feels bizarre. And it took me a long time to and I was a master at the N64, pretty much anything on that platform. And it took me a while just to be able to just feel comfortable controlling stuff with that controller again. Things have changed so much. Like, Mitch, I really want to get your take on this, because you are in your 20s and you didn't kind of talk about all this stuff back when it originally came out. So I'm guessing maybe you're not tired of microconsoles at all.
I mean, I've never bought one, to be truthfully honest. I think the difficult thing is with the microconsoles, it's what games are on there. Mm-hmm. And I think when I always look at or read about someone that has played the games before and knows what's in the library, they usually say it's not as compelling as the games like that were available at the time. So it leaves
meaning it's not a good representation of that console's history.
And so if I were to, like, even the PlayStation Classic, like, I grew up on PlayStation 1, so that should be something that should be right up my alley, that I go, oh, I can play this, and I looked at the library and it wasn't that great. So I think
PlayStation Classic is one of the worst lineups in terms of representing the console.
Yeah, like, in terms of like what it had,
it's really amazingly bad.
Yeah, it really it'll be interesting to see as if they keep doing this and get later and later on, so they start getting into like PlayStation 2 or get into like the Game Boy Advance. There's such a vast library. How in the world would you narrow that list down and make that a good list of library content to do? So
I would be down with a GBA, but like, you're right. Like, it's like, which Castlevanias do you cut from that? Yeah. Or do you just put 3 Castlevania games on it, taking up slots that another game could have? Like, it gets to be impossible. And at a certain point, you probably pull out your old cartridges or just play an emulator.
Yeah, and I think the appeal, unfortunately, there isn't an appeal for someone that's hasn't played on it before, because sometimes they don't even have the first game on there. They have like the 3rd game or the 4th game, but they don't have the first one. So then you're like, you feel
licensing crap.
You feel like you're lost in regards to like not being able to hop on in and know what's going on. And so just even if you didn't know, even if like say the fourth game was a complete a throwaway from all the past games before, you wouldn't know that when you looked on the box. You see a number 4 and you assume you got to play 1, 2, and 3 to know what the heck is happening in 4. So
yeah, I don't like PlayStation 2 will be possible, I think, easily. You could do that, I think. But like,
there's so many
as you move forward into the generations, you don't just run into like, which games do you pick? You run into licensing problems. You run into, like how can you get Gran Turismo 3 on the PlayStation 2 Classic when you'd have to go through all the song licensing again? You have to go through all the car licensing. You have to go through all that all over again. And in the end, you just sort of leave it off. But at the same time, it's like, even as someone who doesn't care that much about Gran Turismo, no PlayStation 2 collection a PlayStation 2 collection without Gran Turismo 3 in it is not complete.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So I think you're just sort of running out of steam on that. And the last viable major console to do that with would be the N64.
That's what I think too.
I mean, I would like a Saturn one, but like it
probably wouldn't sell the Saturn one unless it had Panzer Dragoon Saga on it.
That would be handy. Yes.
Seriously though.
Yeah.
Like it might be the best-selling microconsole.
That would be better than paying $900 for it.
Exactly. I mean, imagine.
I think also maybe that's why backwards compatibility might be starting to become more in the forefront than ever before, because a lot of this stuff, when they're coming out with these micro consoles, aren't coming out with the games that people would want to play on them. So that's true. Need to be able to play their backlog library if they still have it.
Well, I think the backwards compatibility is a very different reason, but we got a future subject on that, I think.
Yeah, sure. But I think it has a little bit to do with it, as like the hope of being able to play that old game again is
they don't care if they already have your money.
That console.
They don't care if they already have your money for a game that came out 20 years ago. Like that's a different subject. The problem is like you're dealing with a particular nostalgia wing, and if you can't hit all the nostalgia points, just like you said on the PlayStation, why would you buy it? Like if it's missing like 3 games that you strongly identify with the era of that console, why would you want it? Like it's just incomplete to you. And the problem is like a game like the PlayStation Classic, I think just was missing those 3 or 4 games for almost everyone.
Yeah.
Like the other ones you could kind of like say like, oh, okay, well, Super Nintendo.
That's really the key.
Super Nintendo doesn't have all the Square games I want on it, but it's got this, and this. It's like, okay, it's still cool. Like PlayStation just didn't do that.
And that is really the key. Because you're going to find people who are going to be unhappy. But really the key is making sure that you keep that group to a minimum.
Yeah. And then N64 could probably do that, minus GoldenEye. But like to your what you mentioned earlier, I think an N64 Classic would have to have a mode that made them run well. Like I think you
run better than the.
You could have a classic mode that like gives it all the same
15
jank.
frames per second.
But like having played Deadly Premonition 2 this week, I was reminded of the N64 a lot, and I kept thinking just like you did, how did I put up with this kind of performance? Because
it's all there was.
Because now playing that is astounding. It's like playing that game now is like, oh my God, how did you release this? But back then it's like that was just how games ran.
I mean, some of those games blew my mind. Like Banjo-Tooie blew my mind. Runs at 10 to 15 frames a second. But
Turok 2 I played for hours and hours and hours, and now it would probably just be like, no, I
would probably barf at this point in my life playing games at that frame rate. So anyway, Sega Astro City Mini. You're wondering why it's called Astro City. That's the name of Sega's arcades in Japan. And that's why it has that title. If they do bring it out here, my guess is they change the title of it. Yeah. I would say they probably do not bring it out here. I would
be surprised.
Yep.
I would encourage it, but I would be surprised.
Yep. Now we're going to move on to something that I think is really freaking cool. And I don't know how everybody else feels about it. I'm interested to get their take. And that is the LEGO NES that was just announced in the last couple of days. It also leaked. Everything leaks now. But we got like a screenshot of it. They put out a teaser trailer. People lightened up the screen grab from the teaser trailer, and we're able to blatantly see the LEGO NES. And not just that, a LEGO TV that comes along with it. This thing, look, I don't get excited about toys that much anymore.
Sorry, I just saw him blow on the cartridge.
Yeah, I don't see like a lot of toys that I get excited about, and I'm like, I have to get that. I mean, I am pretty old, and maybe it might be embarrassing to some people if they ever felt that way at my age. Not me. I really don't give a crap. But this toy, oh yes, I am all in on this freaking toy. You can build your own playable, workable NES with Legos, and then build your own TV. And then the crazy part is that some of the Lego toys that came with the Mario set that launched, I guess it was about 2 months ago now, they work with this. So you can put the Mario on top of the little TV, and then it starts adding sound effects to the weird 2D game that plays on the tele. I don't even know. It's crazy.
He reacts to it.
I can't even figure how that, and that's why I love it, because I look at it and I'm confused. I'm like, I don't really know how that works. I really don't. Like, how does like the little game on the TV work? Does it actually?
It's like a conveyor belt.
Right.
It's on like a roller.
Right. I get that. But I don't understand, like, what is it, the video game that's being portrayed on the TV, or is it just like this canned, like, Mario jumping over stuff thing?
It's Legos.
So
like you literally build.
It's not tied into the game that you're actually playing on the console.
There is no game on the console. It's a Lego. It's a Lego version of World 1-1 that is inside the Lego television, and you turn a crank and it rotates past the screen like it's scrolling.
I get that, but my question is if like you're actually playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES, and when you jump, does Mario also jump on that Lego TV?
No.
Okay.
It's literally,
that was my question.
Like
if the game was talking to the Lego TV, that was my question.
No, because
but the Lego TV does talk to the Mario figure from the other sets, because there's like an amiibo thing to it, so he'll react to it.
Yeah, this thing is cool AF, man. I mean, just the fact that you can build an NES out of Legos, that works. That you can literally just put your cartridges in, and the better news is use your real own controllers, because the controller cord on that thing is straight out of Japan. In fact, my Japanese SNES is right over my shoulder here right now. The cables on the controllers on that are literally 12 inches long. And it appears that the cables on the controller for this is also about 12 inches long.
Well, the controller you build is actually life size on these. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would prefer to use a real controller, and you can, because it's the same port. Same reason you can plug one of your old cartridges in and it's going to play on it. I love this thing. I like that more than any micro console, because it's a functional piece of hardware that I can use all my old software on.
I don't think that's what that is.
No, it's not a real console.
No.
Oh, it doesn't have NES hardware?
The cartridge, no, it's just a Lego system.
You built the cartridge out of Lego.
I thought they use like a Raspberry Pi and like
No. It's a Lego set.
The cartridge.
Well, then why do they blow in the cartridge and plug the cartridge in it?
Because it's supposed to like
be funny.
To be funny.
Oh, that sucks, man. I totally was fooled. I thought that you could put any of your cartridges in and it worked as an NES.
No, not at all.
Oh, well, then I don't care about it now. I really don't. I don't care at all now.
No, it's not an emulator. It's just
I thought they had just put a Raspberry Pi in it.
No.
Oh, well, screw that. I don't want it at all now. I don't even care. Seriously, I thought it was a working NES. I mean, in the trailer, they show him blowing into a cartridge and putting it into the thing.
Yeah, the cartridge is made out of Legos.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice it. I thought it was just a normal NES cartridge.
Yeah, when you were like, "What does he jump?" I was looking.
Well, the other part of it is that the thing's $250. So
that's how much Legos cost.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's the biggest reason why I assumed it was a working NES. I'm like, it's $250. It has to be a working NES.
No, it has to be. No, it has to be it has to be a Lego set with that many pieces. That's how much they cost now.
That's insane. I mean, I buy Christmas every year for my nieces and nephews, and you're right. Even those little dinky sets are like $30 or whatever. But dude, I just assumed for $250, that's a working NES.
No, for $230 for how many for a 2,600 piece set? That's about standard these days.
Is it?
Yeah.
I have no interest in it now.
I would think it was real. Like I would if it was double that price.
Yeah, like I mean, you know that. So you haven't seen it because you don't come over here anymore because we don't shoot here and the world ended. But like, I have the giant Lego Star Destroyer that came out.
Did you get it done?
Yeah, it's on the arcade, the cocktail machine by the TV.
Cool. How many pieces was that?
That was 4,000 something.
Like double the size of this.
More than double. Maybe it was 5,000. I can't remember. That set was $700.
Okay.
So that's what they cost.
I guess it does make sense.
They had a big price hike when they did a price adjustment somewhere back in like around 2006, 2008.
That's so disappointed, man. I was all in on this thing. I'm like, man, my NES is back in my mom's closet in Pennsylvania. Like, I'll get this thing and I'll have a working NES again that I can, because I have a stack of cartridges in here that I could use, but I don't have a working system. So I was like, man, I'll just kill two birds with one stone. I'll have a working NES again, and I'll buy this cool Lego set.
No,
that's why I was so confused when you were like.
I mean, it's a really cool set.
Yeah, it's a nice set.
what they're doing with how the TV works and how like they get all that stuff internally working with the TV is crazy. Like
now I really get why you guys were so confused when I kept saying, "Is the game talking to the Lego set?"
Yeah, because I was like, there's this little like circle that the Mario is connected to that literally just rides the bumps.
Yeah,
for the
it
Mario.
moves like it's like those. Remember those old games were like
no, I know how they work.
Video games. It was like
it had the scroll. I get it, all it works. There was no confusion over that. I understood the mechanics of the TV. That part I got the whole time. I just wondered if when you jumped in the game, if he would also jump over on that Lego TV. But no, there's no game anyway. So that's disappointing and to me way overpriced. I guess that would be my final comment on the Lego NES.
I haven't got any of the Nintendo Lego stuff because I think they look kind of dumb, but I will buy this.
You will buy it. What about you, Mitch?
Pretty awesome.
No.
No.
Sorry.
Not for that amount of money.
Not that amount of money, and I don't have that kind of money to spend on Legos right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do.
Who does?
I do still collect like the Lego stuff I like, not as much as I used to, but like this is pretty neat. Like I want to build that TV. I want to see how that whole mechanism comes together. Yeah. It's like my favorite thing to build in Star Wars Legos is the X-Wing because all the X-Wings have some weird mechanism to make the wings flap.
It does something. So. Yep. Well, that's really disappointing. I was so excited about it.
Dan Boy Nandy says it is functional. Is manufactured.
He says it's mechanically. My God, people, it's mechanically functional. It means you can open it, you can stick the Lego cartridge in, push it down, do the whole. It
has like the spring in it.
Like it has all the it has all the physical functionality, not the
without the actual electronics that make it fun. It pisses me off, man. All right, let's move on. Going to talk about our last topic. That really bothers me. I'm really mad about that.
Now I got it. That's on you, dude. I got to like do some research and see how many people got tricked into that. Like because I haven't seen the actual trailer. I didn't see it. I didn't know this was a thing until I saw it on the rundown and looked it up on the Lego shop, and here it is.
Neither.
The other crazy part is that I have a 2,000 word press release from Nintendo in my inbox that I read this morning. And I still thought it was a working NES.
Well, you remember when they showed the Wii U and we couldn't figure out whether it was a console or not?
Right.
For like the first 20 minutes. Not the first time.
Yep. All right, let's move on to our last topic for today's show. As we teased a little earlier, we're going to talk about backwards compatibility. The poll of the week right now at sifted.net in the header is about backwards compatibility, and it has become a big topic for Generation 9. I believe mainly because Microsoft has forced it into a topic. I don't believe if it weren't for Microsoft's policies that PlayStation would be doing what it is doing right now. I think it would have been very happy to just be like, PlayStation 4 games live on PS4, buy a freaking PS5 to play PS5 games. But Microsoft has changed that conversation, and I believe forced Sony's hand into a more consumer-friendly position. So bottom line, all of this is good for everybody. Whether you're an Xbox fan or a PlayStation fan, this is another case where all boats are going to rise. The competition is going to force each one to get better. However, over the last couple of weeks, I think a big part of it was when we heard about the first $70 game, NBA 2K21, people started looking at, costs a little more closely because that is kind of the final piece of the puzzle for Generation 9. Release date and price is really all that's left. And so people have started diving into that. And I think once that started happening, they started asking publishers, well, so how is that upgrade going to work? They started getting mixed messages, and reporters started reporting that, you know what, you may end up having to pay for some of these upgrades. And I think Microsoft caught wind of all the chatter online and was like, oh, no, you don't. And so this week, Microsoft basically announced that they are not going to be able to charge us extra to upgrade a game from Xbox One to Xbox Series X, which is amazing. And then you guys kind of hinted earlier in the show, I actually haven't heard this, but it sounded like you guys had hinted that PlayStation followed suit on this. Is that true?
Well, they've just been saying it, like in regards to whenever a game says you can upgrade it, it always just says you can do it for Xbox One and PS5. They just haven't publicly said anything about it yet, which I know they plan to address it. I think this month or next month is backwards compatibility, which probably that will come up.
So we don't know yet if Sony's charging. Is that right?
Sony is not charging.
Sony is not charging.
Okay, so we know that already for sure.
For the select games that have announced,
for the select games they've mentioned, yes.
Okay, you do not.
Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla was definitely called out as free to play, upgraded on new systems, no matter what.
Like the difference right now is Xbox basically has put a sticker on it.
Xbox has announced as policy that it
has like a name for it.
That they've even had to. That there's even been talk that they've had to block some third parties from wanting to charge for it. That Microsoft has had to say, like, no, you will not be allowed to charge for that on our system.
Yeah, I mean, that was the story. That's what we're talking about. That's what Microsoft did.
But the thing is, I don't agree that Sony didn't want to do this. I think they were always going to do this because with the digital library that you've built over this generation, you have to be able to carry that forward in some manner. I think Sony has greatly expanded their plans for it in response to what Microsoft is doing. I think you wouldn't be getting like what Cerny was talking about with just about everything will work, but we're focusing on the 100 most popular ones. I think if Microsoft hadn't made these moves, you'd be getting the 100 most popular ones as backwards compatible, and that's it. I think you're right in that Sony's had to dive in on this much more robustly than they would have otherwise. Microsoft has pushed this issue forward in a way that I don't think they expected. And I think, like you said, it's good for everybody. But Microsoft is really going in hard on this one, and I'm a little.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I was about to say I'm a little surprised by that. Part of it might just be that it's one of the most successful software moves they've had on the Xbox One.
It's probably the only good press they got from Xbox One.
Yeah, I mean they've handled it really well.
But it's true.
So you might as well double down on that, especially in the early days where you're not going to have a lot of new software to sell to people.
Well, and they haven't had
they're doing the whole cross-platform thing like crazy anyway, so they might as well just go all in, I guess.
I mean, it's kind of a case that Microsoft just doesn't have anything else really to talk about right now.
I mean, it's something to say that you have while you're waiting for all those new game developers you just bought to get done with their projects. I think that's sort of where you are. And hell, if you can release a Kingdoms of Amalur remaster, you can brag about being able to play original Xbox games on this thing. Screw it. Who knows?
How much does this even matter? Dude,
I don't think it matters that much in terms of deciding to buy a system.
Again, we have a poll up right now. Go be a part of it. I want to know what you guys think about this. Or does it matter that much to you guys? I got to see the first couple of responses before the show started, and one of the first votes was for this is a determinant for me for next gen. One of the very first votes.
But yeah, well, see, I think it depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about being able to play Ninja Gaiden 2 on my Xbox Series X, is that a big deal? Not really. But playing all the other Xbox One games I own and carrying all that forward, playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and all these other games I've spent all this money on digitally and don't own physical copies of to carry that forward to the next system, that is absolutely essential. I think that's why this is all happening.
For every little dinky indie game.
Yes.
Yeah? That's a lot of work, man. How many games have been released for PS4?
A lot.
Probably 1,000 at this point, I guess.
More than that, I think.
You think?
You count all the weird little things, just the number of freaking weird anime things I've never heard of, and that you see, when the sales come up and you scroll to the bottom of this thing, you're like, what the fuck is that? So much of that shit.
It's like the Switch eShop.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think the main reason they're doing this, and I think Microsoft just saw an opportunity in regards to, PlayStation 3 is a bottleneck right now in regards to allowing for backwards compatibility from PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, because only a limited amount of those consoles could if you bought the launch ones, or I think it was a cheaper one about 6 months after that, because I actually had mine stolen, and so I lost my backwards compatibility on
you
my
lost your fat?
Yeah, I lost my fat. No, I actually had to buy a different fat that wasn't backwards compatible. That's what happened. It was when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out.
This is a total non sequitur. But do you remember that dude that was the first ever viral gaming thing? Was that dude that I can't remember his name, but he said, "Oh, that PS triple," and he was an internet sensation for what was his name? He looked like he was Hispanic, and he basically just bashed the Xbox and kept talking about the PS triple. Do you guys?
I remember the PS triple thing. I don't remember anything much more.
That PS triple. Also, somebody in chat will remember his name.
First widespread gaming meme was "All your base are belong to us."
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely true.
But yeah, anyways, for that
Not the Chad Warren. There it is. Kelvin got it. Kelvin's got it. There he is. Chad Warren. That was. You guys remember him?
There it is. Yeah. Reasons why the PS triple makes me hard. That is in fact yes, I remember that.
He ended up being fake, by the way. You guys know that probably now.
Of course.
But I actually watched a documentary on that guy like 2 years ago. Like this.
You remember those heady days when people believe things are real on the internet, like Lonely Girl 15 or whatever that was. Like it was.
Elvis, thank you, man. You pulled that straight out. Chad Warden. That's exactly.
Or Innocent Time.
Yeah, it sure was. People hated him so much, and he just played with them, man. He was just trolling them so hard. It was so great. But anyway, it's the old F the Oscars guy. Fire Native is like, is it the F the Oscars guy? No, it's the old version of the F the Oscars guy.
Same lineage though.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's the forefather. Chad Warren is the forefather of Oscars guy. Okay, go ahead, Mitch. Sorry.
That's okay. What I was trying to get at basically was that Microsoft saw an opportunity because there's a limit right now. PlayStation 3 cannot be backwards compatible on PS4. And so I think they saw an opportunity to say, hey, we can provide a service, a system that can provide all our back catalog, and Sony can't do that. That's something we can differentiate ourselves from. And I think since it's been such a popular thing, I think they've just been doubling down even more on it because now that the PlayStation 4 got its moment, I think they're thinking, are they going to do that again? And if so, they have an advantage.
Well, I think you're right in that, but I think the strategy is even wider than that, in the sense that I think what Microsoft is trying to do here is reinvent console generations as phone style updates, where you just have an iPhone, you just have an Android, you have a Galaxy, and you get the next version as they come out, and you don't really need to make a big production out of it. It's just that's the next Xbox. And so I think what they'd like to do is have it be so that the Xbox is just the Xbox. And
I think I read this week the box art for Xbox Series X. It just says
Xbox.
Xbox.
And so this is just the Xbox. The Xbox. This is the Series X version of the Xbox. This Xbox can play all the Xbox games, going all the way back to the original Xbox. Like you say, the complete experience of the Xbox is going to be in this one box, going all the way back to the year 2001. And you're right, Sony can never claim that because the PlayStation 3 is going to be such a problem. It's
good old Ken Kutaragi,
that freaking cell processor. And I'll bet you they got Cerny at least advising. I bet he doesn't care because he doesn't want to go backwards. He doesn't like to look to the past. He wants to move forward. But I bet they've got him advising begrudgingly on trying to get a working PS3 emulator working on this thing.
Yep, guarantee
which is emulators for the PS3 do exist for the PC. They're not good, but they're there. You could theoretically do it if you certainly have people who know the cell tech well enough, maybe.
Which you should.
But that is a big deal, and that is also, look, if you want to consider this a war, a console war, a war between businesses, between corporations, you are forcing Sony to spend time and manpower and money to figure this thing out that they wouldn't have to do if you hadn't made them do it.
Yeah, especially now where they need that time, where Microsoft needs time to get these games cooking in the oven. They need Sony to not start making these titles like we have Ghost of Tsushima out in a couple days. What does Microsoft have? Nothing at the moment, unfortunately.
Yep.
So let's talk about how much it matters.
You're going to see that because Microsoft has kind of found a way to make Sony have to play catch up on kind of a pretty irrelevant issue to some
It's funny.
Degree.
Yeah.
But
they're making them chase their tail.
Talking point. It's still a talking point, but kind of despite itself. So it's interesting. It's an interesting strategy. And I think you're both right in that it's kind of all they have. But it seems like it's working a little bit.
Well, a little bit. Sticker on it,
let's get to that though. How much does this really matter? Because I'll just be honest. To me, it matters zero.
I don't agree with that. I don't think it does matter zero to you.
Well, I chose the next to last option. It's nice. I'll probably never use it. Was the response that I chose.
You'd be okay if every PS4 game you have disappeared when you bought a PS5. None of that carried forward.
No, I'd be pissed off. But in actuality and reality, it probably wouldn't matter because I really never play old games, hardly ever. I used the backwards compatibility on my PS3 5 times. I checked it on my Xbox One to just see how it worked. I put an old disc in. I was like, oh, that's cool. I can put my disc in and it works and it looks a little better. Mm-hmm. but it's not a feature that I actually use. I just always have to keep moving on to the next game that I just don't have time to go back and play old ones. So it really has very little value for me, but I also appreciate that I am an anomaly and I am very different from the average consumer. So how much do you think it does matter to the average person who's just been buying games all along? And
I think that matters a lot.
Catalog. Yeah.
Even if it's just a reception thing, even if they never go back and play.
That's key, I think.
Even if they never go back and play After Party again.
Right.
Like they pay $20 for it and they don't want to lose it when they get this new system, especially because so many people do trade their old systems in. You know, I never get rid of hardware, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm an anomaly in that too. Most people want to trade in their old hardware so they can get a deal on the new hardware, and I don't think people this generation are going to be willing to like let their whole libraries go. Like, I wonder
if you could attach a monetary value to it. Say you saw a breakdown of Xbox Series X, and you saw that basically you're paying $50 for the backwards compatibility stuff. Would you? Like, would you be okay with that, or would you suddenly be like, you know what? I'd rather have the $50 cheaper version.
I mean, I think with in almost any other generation, I would probably pass on the backwards compatibility, and I would not this gen, because too much of that library is digital now. Like, I can't, even if it's just as simple as like, okay, I don't really, I still have my PS4 or my Xbox One, so if I want to go back and play the old games, I can, because I still have those systems, and I just play the new stuff on the new systems. But then 4 years from now, my PS4 breaks, and all of a sudden I can't get a new one because they don't make PS4s anymore, and all those games are gone. Like, I don't have, it's just gone. Or one day they stop supporting the login for that because it's, 15 years old and every game I had on PS4 is gone. Yeah. Because you got to, if you're going to go hard into digital the way they have this generation, you have to adopt the Steam model, which is no matter how many different PCs I buy, Steam is always going to be there with my library.
Yeah.
And I think even more probably with Sony having a digital only version of the PlayStation 5 really hammers home that I'm pretty I mean they've already said it, but it's going to transfer over, and I think that is significant. I think the other slight thing people miss out on, especially with the PlayStation 5 because it's so hunkin' huge, like there's only so much space people have on their shelf. And so if they want to be able to play their PS4 games, but they don't have the room for their PlayStation 5 and their PlayStation 4.
Or the HDMI inputs.
Yeah. And
the PlayStation 5 is also the size of a car. So
right. They just don't want to deal with that extra. Like they if you can streamline everything into one device, why not do it? We do it for everything else. Do it for your console.
Yep. So let's say, what percentage of the average game consumer, do you guys think this will be a determinant on which platform they buy?
I know a couple people where it is, but I know like some people like myself where it isn't the biggest factor. But I think Matt brings up an excellent point in the very beginning. It depends on how far backwards compatible you're talking about. And I think people, as long as we establish that, hey, everything is from this generation will be playable on your next gen console, I think the later games, in regards to going back to like PS3, Xbox 360, Xbox, I think that lowers immensely in regards to the library and how much that matters.
I would agree with that.
Okay. All right. It's time for our Q&A, people. We're at the end of the episode, but before we get to our Q&A, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor while we're watching the ad. How about you get your questions into chat? Go at Sifted Games so we can find them. Roll it.
Ready to get away from it all without losing all the comforts of home? DeShazer Ryan Realty has a once-in-a-lifetime 200-acre estate for sale in Libby, Montana that gives new meaning to the phrase roughing it. This eye-popping main lake house on this sprawling estate has 4 bedrooms and bathrooms, phone, and internet. There are also separate guest and caretaker houses. It's the first time this property has ever been for sale, so don't let the chance to buy a slice of outdoor heaven pass by. It can be yours for $3.4 million. If you're interested, no matter where you live, contact Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643 or deshazermt@gmail.com. He can also connect you with local realtors who can help you with your specific needs. If you want to see more, head on over to www.snowshoeranchmt.com. That's snowshoeranchmt.com.
Man, I just love looking at that ad. It's really pretty.
It is beautiful. Reminds me a little bit of where I grew up in Central PA, but more remote, definitely. Even Central PA had some buildings here or there. You're pretty much just in your own oasis out there in the middle of nowhere. Be a pretty good place to be holed up for this insane quarantine that we're going through right now. Let's see. We got some questions. First, I want to thank some people for Twitch Prime. Gohan Rage. I saw you post 3 times in our chat that you subscribe for Twitch with Twitch Prime. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Who else we got here? Mega Drive Guy. Thank you. Again, we had our best month ever for Twitch Prime, people. So it's absolutely working. We really appreciate it. Let's see. There's a ton of questions. There was some that was asked a little earlier that I wanted to get to, though. Here we go. Bobby Budnick. Do you think publishers will start charging $70 for both gen since they can't for an upgrade? This is a great question. Or maybe wait till they stop making Gen 8 to charge the $70. So he's asking, like, do you think all game prices are going to go up when the next gen consoles launch? And that maybe is a way for the public. You're slime. Maybe you should run your own business, bro. That's pretty slick. He's saying they'll get the $10 one way or another. What do you guys think?
I don't think that'll happen. I think the $70 price tag will be for stuff that's labeled exclusively for the new systems.
Okay. What about you, Mitch?
There'd be way too much outrage to I think these companies would suffer immensely from public outrage. I
think that's where you split the SKU. Yeah.
Okay. Sneaky Shalid Shanake asks, how are you guys holding up? America seems like a shit show to all us outsiders. Well,
you're not wrong.
Well, I'll tell you, for about 67% of America, it's a shit show too. Let me tell you, bro, it is a nightmare that we all are trapped in and we cannot escape. And that is pretty much the truth of it.
It's like being trapped in a room with toddlers.
We are being held basically hostage by a bunch of idiot juveniles who are not adult enough to act like adults. That's pretty much what's happened. 70% of America has been taken hostage by 30% of idiots. That's what's happened.
It's like when you are at school and someone has the great teacher that is really good at teaching, and you just have the shittiest one. And everyone's getting great grades and does really well in school, and you just do shitty.
Or you're in the group in school and you have the 3 kids in your group that don't do anything and then the 7 kids who get the whole project done. I mean, that's another analogy that you can use. And you hate those 3 people because they're making it rough on everybody else.
Except in this case, the 3 people keep breaking the project.
Right, over and over again. Yes. After we fixed it twice, they keep breaking it. So yeah, dude, believe me, we're right there with you, man. I am fed up. Like, I'm to the point where if I see somebody out in public without a mask, there might be problems because I'm done.
Well, I think people are fed up. I've seen more confrontations.
Like, it's not going to be anymore the assholes in Costco without the mask causing the problems. It's going to be the person like me with the mask causing the problems if these people don't get it in gear. I'm sick of it. Anyway.
It'd pretty much be handled by now if people would just wear it. They'll kill someone for their country, but they won't put a piece of cloth on their face.
Dude, we would be getting ready for our fantasy drafts right now. We'd be excited about the NFL season. Anyway, Ed Rock, the truth. I don't think we've ever answered a question from you. Any early thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima? We have not started playing it yet.
No,
so we can't. Or we would.
My early thought is hurry up.
Yeah, we obviously saw the reviews today, and they were not as good as I thought, I guess is the way I would put it, but they still are good.
They're good. They're not like Last of Us good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be Last of Us good. I thought it was just going to be like good to great, and that's kind of where it's been.
Yeah, and the criticisms I've seen have been pretty much things that don't bother me about open world. But basically, there's a lot of fatigue about open world stuff, and I am not tired of open world.
You're not there yet.
I'm the last man standing who still loves the open world formula.
Next week, though, Ghost of Tsushima, Paper Mario, Origami King, both in next week's episode. So
when are we going to talk about Deadly Premonition 2?
Yeah, see, I didn't even know, Matt, that played it, or that would have been in this, because we got some good laughs out of that one, I think.
It's the only thing that came out this week of note. And look, I'll say that. So there's supposed to be a patch coming for that like is supposed to improve performance at some point. Maybe we can talk about it then, because I will just say this: don't buy this game right now. Okay. I love the first Deadly Premonition. I think this game would be fun if it worked properly, but it's like playing a preview build. Like it is. I cannot believe they released it in this condition. Do not buy that game right now. Wait for them to
watch
upgrade.
Digital Foundry's analysis of it. It's hilarious.
Well, when I was doing Turnt for HQ and I was pulling up the B-roll of the gameplay, I was like, this is rough.
It's real rough.
It runs for like 10 frames a second. That's not even an exaggeration.
The skateboarding looked so choppy. I was like, this makes skate look amazing.
I have no idea.
Okay. Oh, and here, let me tell you. I'll tell you this much though. So I had one of the weirdest crashes I've ever had in a video game ever in Deadly Premonition 2. There's a point where you finish a certain part of a quest and you walk away, and then it does the thing where it triggers a cutscene, right? And as it triggers the cutscene, a character laughs as it fades to black to go to the cutscene. And every bit of voice dialogue in this game has a text box at the bottom too, and you know, it's like those like RPGs where you press the button to like continue to the next thing. Mm-hmm. If you it like the laugh comes up, the laugh text box comes up, and it fades to black. If you do not, it took me 4 reloads to figure this out. If you do not press the button to advance the text box, by the time it fades to black, the game crashes to black. It just freezes on black, and you have to restart the software in the switch menu.
The first game,
and I'm like, I don't think I get past this, and then I tried hitting the button and it just went to the cutscene. I'm like, I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
A lot of people liked the first game because it was so janky. It was like,
this isn't janky like that. Good. This is not janky the way Deadly Premonition 1 was, where it was like they used outdated things and sort of like intentionally. This is broken. Like this is not intentional. Like it can't be. It's like there's elements in here that are like, okay, you're doing this to fuck with me because it's like, okay, go kill 30 bees, go kill 30 dogs. Like you're messing with me on this, and like it's part of the joke. The frame rate is not part of the joke on this. There's no way that's intended.
And a reviewer gave this
borderline
game
unplayable.
I saw like a 9. I saw a 9.
Nuts.
Yeah,
I can't take it because that was the thing is I was trying to play enough of it to talk about it if we were going to talk about it on this show, and I'm like, I really want to stop playing this and just wait to see if they improve it because I really hate playing it because it's so broken. So don't buy that game yet. Wait for us to give you the green light, or to tell you just never. I mean, look, I hate to say
we'll talk about it next week.
Sweary, but like,
maybe they'll fix it this week.
I don't know. He said they're working hard on the patch, but who knows when it's going to go up. But
let's see. Texture Glitch, thank you for Twitch Prime. You rocketh. One Super Master Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. You're awesome. Emperor Dread, thank you. All you guys are awesome. Tiny2K, keep sharing emotes. You guys rock. OCD Master 1, do you guys think PT will carry over to PlayStation 5?
No.
Of
course not.
I think it's dead. We'll never see it again.
Well, I think he means the demo. If you have the demo on PS5 and PS4 and you haven't deleted it, will that carry forward? No, it will not.
Probably not.
I promise you it will not.
Yeah, it won't play.
Because it would have to be still...
They'd have to manually do it.
Yeah, wouldn't they have to be in Sony's library, and it probably isn't there anymore.
Yeah, you would have to carry it forward in a weird... I mean, I think there's a way to copy it physically to the new hard drive on a PS4 if you do have to do that. I think that's what I did when I upgraded the Pro. But it's not gonna transfer. You're gonna need to keep your PS4 if you want to play that over and over again for some reason.
Worth something.
You could probably sell a PS4 with PT on it for a fair amount of money. That's true.
Yeah, I deleted mine. Unfortunately, I had it and I deleted it. So now I have is like the tag. Like I have it showing in my library, but I can't get it anymore. It's gone. ETH Demon, what is Ubisoft thinking? They have both Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs coming out super close to Cyberpunk.
I don't know.
I don't either. I think they maybe think their fans are big enough that it doesn't matter.
Well, I think also that's when they were always going to release those 2 games, and Cyberpunk just moved there like a few weeks ago. So it's not it wasn't, they thought Cyberpunk would have been out for months by then.
Or you go to Matt's theory, which is that they're launching on the console release dates.
Well, I think that's true also, but I also think that was all in place way before Cyberpunk slipped to November.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing.
And at that point, you can't change that. You're
because
stuck.
Then you look like, well, we didn't even know the date, but internally to your teams, you look like you're backing down or whatever. Yeah. There's all kinds
that's when those games are coming out. You move either of those games a week in either direction, you're on top of Call of Duty now. It doesn't. You're stuck. You're just stuck there. An 800-pound gorilla has busted into the room, and you're just going to have to hope he doesn't notice you, I guess. Yeah. I mean, Assassin's Creed probably has the cachet to to do all right there. And they're going to probably be fully next-gen compatible at launch, and Cyberpunk doesn't have that patch until later. Certainly not going to stop me from one or the other, but if I had to buy one, I'd buy Cyberpunk. And I own every single Assassin's Creed game. Like, I got to admit it.
Oh, me too. I'll buy it first, no doubt. Croak, thank you for the bits, man. It's freaking awesome. This stuff is all adding up and making a difference for us. I just want to let you guys know. Justin Horman, when we first saw Resident Evil 4, we saw a game that looked very different than what we got. Can you think of any other games where we first saw was different from what we got? Anything where you wish we got the early game footage instead of the end product? Interesting. That's a good question.
Well, the most prominent example for that would probably be Dinosaur Planet, a.k.a. Star Fox Adventures, which started as a completely different game and then had Star Fox shoehorned into it.
Yep. And I would say with that one, it's probably coin flip. Which one I want more.
Yeah.
Like, I like Star Fox enough that it would offset the fact that I was interested in also meeting this new universe full of characters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was probably going to be a mediocre game one way or the other.
Yeah.
Put it that way. And that's what it was. Resident Evil 4 is actually probably the best example of that.
It is.
As far as I can remember.
Duke Nukem Forever is probably another example you can give. That obviously what it ended up being was way worse than what was promised initially.
Well, just the hiccup is like we don't see very much of early footage unless the thing is like ready to go now, and so it's really hard to like.
There was a lot of footage of the first RE4 floating around out there.
Of like the ghosts and all that kind of stuff.
That crazy monster that had like the big scissors. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, some of that did transfer over to Resident Evil 4, though.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
The knights did in regards to like the Ashley level with the knights and standing around. So,
you don't throw everything out, but
yep. Let's see if we have another one. S. Swanland on a recent Pactor Factory talked about consoles paying money for online and Amazon doing it in the future. Do you think if Amazon goes this route, will Sony or Microsoft perhaps go free online to compete? This also dovetails off of a recent Pactor Factor where someone asked him why we pay to play games online on consoles and it's free on PC.
I mean, it could if Amazon's service for it picks up any steam. Like that's no pun intended on Steam. But I mean, the thing is there that like Amazon would have to become a factor that would force them to do that. Like, because right now I don't see that happening.
I mean, just look at Stadia. Like that's your example. Like Stadia isn't charging you to play online. It's just charging you for the game, but they don't have enough in the library to compel you to switch over. So I don't think it would change anything unless that happened.
Yeah, it would require a much bigger sea change in terms of Amazon's positioning in the space.
Yep. Metallica 1981, thank you, brother, for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. Since Kelvis helped us out a little earlier, we'll answer one of his questions. Kelvis, do you think Microsoft will bring down the house with its upcoming Xbox Series X event?
What is bringing down the house?
Shifting momentum.
Blow it out the back of the stadium. Blow the Death Star up. Like nail everything. No,
the likeliness, probably no, but I'm open to
the idea.
I'm open to the idea, but what would they would have to show everything.
Halo Infinite would have to just destroy.
Yeah. I tell you what,
that's really what it comes down to.
Everyone I've talked to about, even real gaming people, but like everyone I've talked to about like Microsoft going for, like everyone has said the same thing. I don't know what they would be, what they could do to Halo to make me interested in Halo Infinite.
It's hard.
I see their point. I absolutely, I'm probably maybe interested, but I would take a reinvention of that franchise on a level I just don't think they're going to be comfortable doing to really catch my attention.
The only way they could blow out would be have many compelling games within 18 months, because that's what Sony showed off. They have 4 first-party games coming out within 18 months and third-party exclusives coming out in 18 months. So they have to match that to even blow me out of the water. So that's a tough ask.
I mean, they might, but I
don't see Hellblade doing it.
Hellblade's not a launch game though. Like that's the thing. I'm trying to think of what you could throw at me for this November that really makes me sit up and beg,
and say, I don't want to play Miles. I want to play this instead.
Like
they don't have that.
If they have anything that can make me say that about Miles, I'd rather play than Spider-Man Miles Morales, I don't know it exists yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough call for you in general. I mean, I don't know of too many games I could say, hey, you can play this first or you can play that first, and you're going to pick this.
Yeah, but still counts.
Yeah.
And if you look
thank
at
you
it,
for
like,
more bits. You're awesome, bro. Thank you, man.
I was gonna say, if you look at it too, like Spider-Man is one of their biggest sellers, and so it shows the demand for it. So you got to beat that somehow.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've passed on plenty of Spider-Man games in the past. It's just this is
the last
not
one
this
was
one.
be a good one.
Final question from El Guapo 3385. Aside from Cyberpunk 2077, any other potential big releases this year that can be a potential game of the year? I kind of talked about this earlier. I think
Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed are in the conversation.
I think
Certainly in the
Miles
conversation.
Morales could be on that list.
Yep.
Too.
Yeah, Miles is in there.
Halo could be. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know what Halo is really.
They worked on it a long freaking time. So they've had time to make big changes. I'm completely open to the idea that Halo Infinite could blow my doors off and totally convert me to, I would buy Xbox Series X first. So
Absolutely.
we'll see.
That would be nice.
Same
Everybody
here.
should
I would
keep
love
their
that.
mind open, and we'll wait and see. I'm excited for it, and that's about all I can say right now. So there you go. That's GameFace 220. We had Sifted HQ episode 20 today, a landmark for Sifted HQ. For a show like that production heavy, for us to hit 20 episodes, big deal. So virtual high five to you, Mitch, brother. A lot of work has gone into that show to get to 20 episodes, and coincides on the same day with 220 for GameFace. So if you want to find out what's happening with Sifted, you can find us on Twitter at Sifted Games, or you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Sifted. We survive 100% on Twitch Prime, as we've talked about this episode, and donations on Patreon. So if you like our stuff, you're checking us out on any of the 6 different podcast services that we're on, head to patreon.com/Sifted and kick us a couple bucks a month. Really appreciate it. Really makes a big difference for us. And if you do that, and you're on YouTube and you want to get our stuff day and date, we now have YouTube memberships open. You can just go to our channel, youtube.com/Sifted Games. You can join us right there, and you can get all our content day and date. That's a new feature from this week. If you want to just connect with the people on GameFace, you can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. You can find Matt on Twitter at MKyle, that's Keil. And you can find Mitch at Mitch Sikor, Sikor. So on behalf of my boys, hope you guys have a great, safe week. Wear those frickin' masks. GameFace is up and out.